All the stream things. Perfect. Sounds good to me. Sure. Sweet. Yeah. Sure. Perfect. Seems pretty straightforward. Awesome. Oh, okay. Sweet. I suppose it makes sense, right? Sweet. Sounds good.
Well, what is up, fellow nerds? Welcome back to yet another Unpl stream. I am looking forward to I'm looking forward to an awesome time. Today it has been a week since we revealed all of the coaches, and we've had some hype around all of this. I'm really looking forward to finally revealing all, especially so that Baldy can quell his anxieties about all these things. But yeah, today is going to be a great day, and I am joined by none other than that voice that you've been hearing, Ark.
How's it going, everybody? Really happy to be here. Really stoked to go over the teams. Everyone's got some crazy rosters, so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. If for some reason the music is still too loud, or Ark is too loud, I could never be too loud. But yeah, just let us know if anything needs to be changed, but I think everything should be at least close. But before we jump too far into everything, we'll take just a second to go over the rules, because the rules this season are a little bit different than what we have ever done in UNPL. And so, I want to make sure that everybody's aware of what we're doing. If you couldn't tell from the title or from the thumbnail, things are a little different. We're allowing some things we've never really allowed before. So here is a little bit of a breakdown of what we're doing. So this season we are allowing some Ubers. We're allowing some very powerful things. We have upped the total number of points that everybody has. Normally we're at 115. This season we're at 125. We're still doing 10 to 12 Pokemon, and some Ubers are allowed. Now, not all Ubers are allowed. You're not going to be able to see any kind of Mewtwo's or Necrozma Duskmane or any of those crazy things. That stuff's insanely broken, and I think it's difficult to balance around. So instead, we're going with kind of the UU Ubers tier kind of stuff, and we've allowed a lot of that in, and so I think it's going to lead to a very interesting time. When you first heard the new rules, Arc, what were your thoughts on this take?
Honestly, the two things that stick out to me, number one, the Ubers is obviously like really exciting. I personally have never played like an Ubers draft league on Wi-Fi. So I think allowing some of the really, really powerful stuff in is really cool. And then the Terra tax format is also really interesting too, because like a lot of us are used to the low to mid tier Terra. You know, you get your 2 or 3 captains. You know, sometimes it's a separate budget, but now it kind of allows people the freedom to sort of, you know, pick and choose. If you want something really, really strong to Terra, it's like you can spend a lot of your budget on it. So I think that there's a lot of room for creativity, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I have always been a hater on Terra tax. I have always been the one that thought that it was not a great system. However, when we're getting into the high tier Terra type of stuff, I think it becomes kind of a necessary evil. And I think otherwise you end up with some really weird balancing. So for instance, something like Superior, right? You're gonna have to allow Superior to Terra, and without Terra, it's manageable. You know, not really a huge deal. But then you add Terra, and all of the sudden this thing gets all kinds of crazy tools that it didn't get before, and there are a lot of mons that fall into that as well. Mons that, you know, everything works except for its typing, right?
Right.
And so there are a lot of mons that are like that. So I think in this case it is something that we just kind of have to do. So yes, there is Terra tax, and so of course all of this will be in the fan doc that will be released later today. So you'll be able to see the board, you'll be able to see all of the mons that everybody picked. All of that will be there. We're doing an 8-week season once again. We almost did 9, but we're gonna stick with 8 this time around. We may switch that up in a future season, but yeah, I am excited to jump into this new rule set. I have not played an Ubers League since Sun and Moon, so it has been a very long time for me. Although my first pick, you know, spoilers, my first pick is my Uber, and it's one that I drafted in that league. So it's a bit of a comfort pick for me on that one, but either way, I think that's all the rules to go through here. And so now I think it's time to just go ahead and jump into what everybody brought. But before we do that, we get to reveal the draft order. Here is the draft order from top to bottom. So we have Zand going first. We've got That's a +1 going second. Very, very lucky up there. I got third for once. Crazy how that happened. I am normally in the like 7 to 13 range. That is normally my sweet spot. So that worked out. Then we got Tony Torcol at 4th. You got 5th. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Then we got Grum right after you. We have the Demolition Force with Emerald Miner. We've got TJP with Bundle Montreal. We've got Springfield Starmies for Jeremy, of course, our returning Academy champion. We've got Arts, of course, with his awesome logo. I don't think anyone's going to be able to tell what his first round pick is going to be, just by that logo. We've got Golden Guy with the pincers. We have Crep with the Twilight Slashers. Then Ruppy. Then we've got Horizon coming back, another one of our champions. Fraud Montreal, I'm such a big fan. Yes, it's perfect. But yeah, Horizon coming with the Arizona Cardinals. Then we've got Jakib, and finally Baldy in that last spot. When you were given the 5th slot, did you think you were going to be able to get what you wanted? I know that you and I had talked a little bit about what you were looking for first round, and then there were 4 choices, and I think all 4 got taken.
yeah. So I was like, you know what, 5th out of 16th, I can live with that. You know, we're close enough to the wheel. It's like there's a very strong chance that I get something really cool. And there were 3 picks that I was really looking at, and I think they went in succession. All
1,
3
2, and 3
spots before me. So you know what, that's how draft goes. But to start off like that, you know what, I was like, you know what, it's fine. There's a lot of cool stuff on the board. So
it is, for sure. I will say I got very lucky this draft. I normally get sniped basically every round. This one wasn't nearly as bad, luckily. But I'm just going to tell you, a lot of these people have some insane teams. Everybody has an insane team this season, and it's going to be great. So let's go ahead and jump into the first pick. Of course, Zand going first, and it's Magirna. I mean, did anybody really expect anything different? I mean, Magearna had to be top 2 or 3, right? This mon is absolutely insane. Huge special attack. While it is slow, it really doesn't matter when it gets shift gear, when it gets trick room, when it gets all the things. This mon is ridiculous. Everybody better watch out because this thing is ridiculously powerful.
Absolute monster. I have to play it in week 1, so
yeah,
I'm not looking forward to it.
Better you than me.
Yeah.
I believe I play week 3 or 4. I play Zand this season, so it's not gonna be fun. But yeah, this mon is definitely very fun for the user, not so much fun for the opposition, especially because of Soul Heart too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this thing is one of the best snowballers out there, so it's absolutely insane. Next up, +1 grabs Palkia Origin. Yes, we allowed Palkia Origin this season. No regular Palkia, but Palkia O coming out here. This thing hits very hard. The typing is not bad at all with Water Dragon. It's good. It's really good. Obviously, the forms that require an item get a bad rap in a lot of cases, but I mean, it's still a Palkia.
Right.
You know, it's still a Palkia. It still gets great coverage. It still has great stats. You know, just avoid freeze dries and you should still be fine.
Yeah, I really like Palkia as a pick. I think that out of the mons that kind of like, obviously they need to hold their item, I think that this one probably suffers the least.
I think so.
Just because the typing is so good and the coverage is decent, and it's like you can still do a number of different things where the item isn't as impactful as some of the others is.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think that it can get away with it a lot better. So as far as how we tiered these, so we did our 1 through 20 normal tiers, and then for the Ubers we had a 22-point tier and a 24-point tier. Palkia was in the higher tier, and then we put Dialga in the lower tier in the 22. I think that really speaks with what you're saying as far as how much it suffers from holding that item, and I would say that Dialga typically would suffer a little bit more,
right?
Just because typically that mon would love to be scarfed a lot more. But I think Palkia is gonna be an absolute menace this season. So I can't wait to see what +1 does. Next up's me, and I grabbed Kieran Black. This is a comfort pick for me. This is probably my favorite Uber that's in the game right now. It's really good. This thing has a massive attack stat. While it's not the fastest thing in the world, it gets Dragon Dance. It now gets a lot of multi-hit moves with Scale Shot and with Icicle Spears. So it gets all the things it needs to do, and of course Fusion Bolt, given the Bolt Beam. Yeah, this thing's incredible, and it's super bulky. And now the hidden buff is now with if it's in snow, it gets the defense boost. So
right, yeah,
so really cool stuff. Definitely not foreshadowing for anything, but yeah, this mon is really cool. I know this is one that you wanted.
Yeah, Kiram was actually my number 1 choice. So to see it go, I was like, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, the mon's just a whole threat, right? It's like you have to respect every possible option, and like even every once in a while, it's like you could go special with it too and really throw people off. So I think that it's got a lot of versatility, and people ought to be looking out for it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It gets plenty of great moves on the special side, so and it's still a 120 base special attack, so
right,
it can still work. Next up, Tony Torkel grabbing Fluttermane. Yeah, Fluttermane. I caught a lot of flack on allowing Fluttermane this season, but yeah, Fluttermane is here, and I don't know if anybody can tell from the mascot plus this first pick, if you can tell where Tony's going to be going, but yeah, Fluttermane is also an insane threat. As long as you don't, well, if you hit it on the special side, it's going to live forever. If you hit it on the physical side, I don't know, it folds up like a piece of paper. That's the only real thing on it, but it's super fast, hits super hard, the typing's good, the coverage is good. There's not a whole lot to complain about on that. Plus, of course, you've got booster energy.
Yeah, I might be in the minority, but I think allowing Fluttermane here is like fine. I don't know if it's just me. Obviously, like very strong, especially if you get some support behind it. But you know, you get a nice physical attacker out there, you get a little bit of priority, you know, some other things, you know, you can find ways to slow it down. But with that being said, like, it still demands a lot of respect, obviously, and
absolutely,
it just comes in and clicks Moonblast. So
yeah,
you know.
it's you got to make sure that you have a Sucker Puncher or a Shadow Sneaker or something like that. Because obviously this thing is not going to be able to Tera. While we did do high tier Tera, none of the Ubers are going to be able to Tera. It's only those that are up, yeah, honestly, it's only those that are up to the 17 tier, and then of course Tera Tax would push them up to 20. So nothing that's going to cost more than 20 points is allowed to Tera. But like I said, I don't think it would have been good to allow Fluttermane or something like this. Even if it costs like 30 points, I still don't think that would have been worth it.
Right.
Just no thank you. We're not doing that. But coming up to you, Chin Pao. Explain why Chin Pao over all the other stuff on the board.
Yeah, so I was just kind of like looking at things. Like when I play draft, I'm very much a person that, like, I want to try new things and things that like I've never ever used before. And after, you know, the first couple of picks, some of the things that I wanted were already gone. So I was like, you know what? I want some speed, and the draft plan right away is Baldy explain Chin Pao. Yeah, so like getting speed, and I kind of went with the draft strategy of like, you know what, I just want stuff that's really fast, hits really hard, and Pao does that. You know, it's like the dark and ice type stabs is like very strong. Obviously, it's weak to like a lot of priority moves and stuff. But if you can get a team around it that really enables it to just kind of come in and click a button, then, you know, obviously it's going to be very strong. It's like base 135 speed. So like there are very few things that are ever going to get around it. Yeah. And you don't have to run boots on it. It's obviously a good idea, but it's like a choice band and just clicking buttons is pretty strong. I
mean, this thing gets Sword Stance, it gets Sucker Punch, it gets Icicle Crash. I mean, it gets all the things that you really want it to get. And of course, Sword of Ruin just says, you know, screw your defense. It's gone. I'm just gonna kill it anyway. Yeah, this thing's absolutely an insane threat, and I'm glad that I don't have to play against it this season because it's very scary, very scary.
For sure.
All right, next up, we've got Grum with Deoxys. This is just normal Deoxys. Deoxys attack was not allowed, thank goodness. But this thing is, listen, just because it's not the attack form doesn't mean this thing is not a threat, because it absolutely is. It hits really hard. It gets insane coverage on both the physical and the special side. It is frail, but that's really about it. Everything else about this thing is fantastic.
Yeah, Dio is nasty. Like, fantastic coverage. It's like base 150 in each of its attack stats still, so it's like also gets access to like really strong priority move. Like it gets extreme speed too. So it's like even if you're running Scarfers and stuff that get over the top of it, like sometimes that's not even good enough. So you know, you stick a band of specs, even like a focus sash lead, and you just click buttons till you die. It's like you're gonna get some mileage out of it for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's there really aren't great switch-ins to it, and of course it is it has retained a specific move that I will hold off until later, because it will play in a little bit to Grum's plan, but which just makes it even stronger. But yeah, Deoxys, insane first round pick, really good stuff. Next up, Demolition Force with Solgaleo. Now I know Solgaleo, however people want to pronounce that, has gotten a bad rap here recently, and has been on Fraud Watch. But listen, have you seen this thing's defenses?
Yeah,
they are stupid. They are absolutely stupid. This thing will survive insane hits that it absolutely should not. And then it just goes for Flame Charge. You put a weakness policy on it, and all of a sudden you are just done.
Yeah, I'm surprised people like I've seen so many mixed opinions on Solgaleo in the past. Pyro Better Line is a crazy
I don't know about that.
but yeah, no, like you said, it's like it's tanky, and like Steel Psychic like is a very strong typing, and like you could having the opportunity to go like policy with like Flame Charge and be a fast set. This thing also gets Trick Room too, so it's like it can function under that as well, and like, you know, it's a mon that like likes to trend more towards support sometimes, I feel. But like honestly, I think it's a lot better than people give it credit for.
I do too. I personally think that it's not as much of a fraud as what people are saying, and especially with Emerald. Emerald comes up with some crazy stuff every season. You can ask me when I got beaten by his counter. What's that thing called?
Blodsire?
Blodsire, yeah.
That was so far.
Gosh, he lived on like 2, and then I just got wrecked. Yeah, he comes up with some crazy stuff, and so if anybody's gonna make it work, I think it's gonna be Emerald. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with that. Next up, can we just skip this one? Is that a thing we can do?
That's fine, honestly.
Yeah, we all knew this was coming. Everyone knew the meme was here. Yeah, it's Iron Bundle. Of course, it gets almost perfect coverage because of water plus freeze dry. So, you know, if you don't prepare for it, it can do a few things. But certainly not what I would have chosen first round, considering what else was out there, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Although I will say that the coaches allowing him to get what he got in the second round in addition to this is ridiculous. So shame on the coaches for doing that. But anyway, we're gonna move on. Giratina Origin for Jeremy. I saw him in the chat earlier. This one's cool. Now, I personally think the Giratina Origin is not that bad. I think that it gets a lot of really good sets that it can run. You've of course got Will-O-Wisp Hex that works really, really well. You can run an offensive set. It gets priority. It gets Poltergeist now. So it can be physical or special, and you really don't know which one it's going to be. And both sets work really well, actually. So it's cool. I personally like this pick. Plus, it gives you a ground immunity, which is pretty valuable, honestly. There's a lot of really strong ground types that are going to be running around.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I like the Giratina line. Like both forms of Giratina are really, really cool. And like you said, like the strong coverage it gets with like Dragon and Ghost type moves, like those are just going to hit really, really hard. And it's also like you said, it's a Levitator too, but it's also a spin blocker, and it also gets defog too. So it's like, you know, you want to trend more offensive, I think, with the Origin form, but you're still tanky. I mean, you still got like base 100 defenses or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's still super fat. So,
you know, you can take this thing a lot of different ways. I think it's a really cool first pick.
I do too. Yeah, I think the only thing, again, really the only thing that's holding it back is, of course, having to hold the item, right?
Yeah.
And so, because, you know, with normal Giratina, you can run leftovers, or you could even run like a weakness policy set or something like that, if you wanted to get crazy. But yeah, this one is locked in with the Griseus core or whatever it's called now. So that's the only thing really. But besides that, it still gets a lot of really good tools, and I think that there's going to be a lot of work to be had with this thing. Next, surprising absolutely everyone, Lugia, first round pick for Arts. Arts always gives away that first pick, or at least one of the picks in his logo, and this season is no exception. But yeah, Lugia, again, something on Fraud Watch. I've been seeing a lot of people saying that Lugia isn't as good as what people say, but listen, if you get a team that takes out the physical attackers and you start calm minding up with Lugia, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
How are you gonna KO this thing? I just don't see how you KO this thing when you take care of the physical attackers and then use this in the late game.
Man, Lugia is another one of those like I'm so split on it, because I've seen it used in like some of the higher tier leagues before, and it's been okay. But like it fills a niche that I feel, you know, it demands prep is the strongest thing about it, I think. You know, it's like you can bring your special attackers to the game, but it's like, oh shoot, how do I deal with Calm Mind Lugia? Or how do I find a way to kill this thing? And you know, it just takes so little damage all the time. So I'm on the fence about it, but I really hope that he finds a way to use it really well, and I want to see it do well, because I think it would be cool.
And I think Arts will. Arts is pretty innovative. He has beaten me a couple of times with some wild stuff, and I always love seeing what Arts comes up with. And I think, again, if somebody's going to make Lugia work, I think Arts is going to do it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And then Terapagos. for round one, this is one that I did not expect to see going round one at all. And I know Golden told me afterwards that he had never used Terapagos and really wanted to try it out. Personally, I think this is a round 2 mon, or even round 3. I just don't know that this was the pick for round 1 when you've got all the Ubers, when you've even got like you've still got things like Iron Valiant, Dragapult, Palafin, like all of these things that have not been chosen yet. So what do you think about? I mean, it's not to say that Terapagos is bad by any means, because it's not. But what do you think about the Terapagos round 1?
I think it's kind of cool. I think that Golden kind of like see, there are 2 ways to kind of go about this strategy. It's like maybe Golden wasn't super attached to any of the Ubers that are in the higher tiers, so he's like, you know what, maybe I could pick up a mon that like is really good support, really like starts building the team, and then I can pick up an Uber later. And I think that Terapagos in the format specifically can be really valuable just due to the ability. Like it's always a I don't lose the game here kind of thing, where, you know, you stick some boots on it, you make sure that the first hit is not very effective. So, and you know, it can be threatening too. It's a spinner. You get some good coverage. Terra Starstorm hits really hard. You could run some Meteor Beam sets. So I think Terapagos is good. I think, yeah, maybe a round 2 pick, like you said, but I respect him taking it early on, and I think that it's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's not a bad mon at all. I just feel like it may be a little early, but I will say I do think that even with not taking the Uber round 1, I still think Golden ended up with a good Uber. And that's another thing to talk about is, you know, we're on the second half of the draft here of first round. And so some people are going to opt to not take an Uber here because, you know, pretty much everybody in the top 8 took one. And so now it's a little bit more flexible because you can only have one mon that is considered an Uber, 22 or 24 points on any given team. So you can feel a little bit safer in that too. So so there's definitely some strategy to it. And so it's not what I expected, but I can definitely understand it. Next, Zamazenta Hero. Oh boy. This is one that I was on the fence as to whether or not I wanted to allow it. This thing is incredibly strong. Oh my gosh, this thing is incredibly strong. It's of course gets the it gets the defense boost when it comes in the first time. Of course, that did get nerfed, but the defense is absolutely insane. Its attack is insane. It's fast. It can hold whatever item it wants to. Yeah, this may have been a mistake, but it's super strong.
Yeah, I think chat tends to agree with you.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, man, this thing is insane. And like we've talked a little bit about like whether or not like the different forms of mons holding the item, whether or not it's like impactful. This thing being able to hold whatever it wants is disgusting,
ridiculous.
So it's like you can run, you know, a scarf band set. You could run weakness policy on this too. The strong coverage that it gets, like. This is something that like I briefly looked at too. I went a different direction, but anybody that picks up this mon is going to do well with it, and I think Crep's gonna make really good use of it.
And I'm honestly shocked that it made it all the way to Crep, right? Because Crep was what, like 10th or something like that. I'm surprised that it made it this low. I really thought this was going to be a top 5 pick just because of how insane it is, but. This is going to be a threat, a huge threat. Every week you have to respect it or you're just going to get swept. It's ridiculous. Happens when someone picks bundle round 1.
Very true.
I mean, I can't argue with that. Can't argue with that. Next up, Dragapult going round 1. This is the first time I think I've ever said I'm kind of surprised that Dragapult went round 1. Of course, Pult, we talk about it in every league. Pult hits hard. It's one of the fastest mons out there. It can be physical or special. Basically all it's missing is Poltergeist. But it does pretty much anything else you want it to do. It's really good. So again, Ruppy being in a later part of the draft, I think that this totally makes sense. And so grab a really good mon that's in the normal tiers and then grab an Uber later.
Yeah, it is the draft league mon. Like it just does anything that you want it to. And I think the speed tier, especially with some of the stronger Uber dragons kind of laying around, having something that gets over the top of those, I think is going to be really important. So I like the pick a lot.
Yeah, and we kept this at 20 points. I considered bumping this into Uber territory just because it is so good. Who knows? I might end up, Ruppy may end up making me regret that, but at least for this season, it stayed at 20, and so Ruppy can still get an Uber on top of that as well, and we'll see what happens with that. Next up, finally, Dialga Origin, like what we had talked about earlier. Obviously Dialga, I think, does suffer a little bit more from needing to hold the item syndrome, but still, it's still a Dialga.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is one of the mons too that I'm a little on the fence about. I've actually seen Dialga Origin allowed in like a couple of draft leagues that are more like that don't allow the other Ubers because they just like want to test it out. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. I think it's obviously very strong. It's like it's a rocker as well. The steel typing enables it to do some pretty cool things too. So I think that it's a really cool pick. I'm just uncertain personally how it's going to do. So I really hope that the Cardinals here prove me wrong.
Yeah, it's tough because you want to run like a scarf, or you want to run a balloon, or you want to. There are several items that would, or again, weakness policy, like what we said. I think that there are a lot of items that this thing would like to run, and I think that's going to be the only thing that really possibly holds this back, is just having to hold that item instead of being able to do whatever it wants. So, but we'll see what Horizon comes with. Again, Horizon has made some really good strats in the past, especially in Academy, and so I think now put a little more power in his hands, and we'll see what happens.
For sure.
Next up, I believe this is pick 15. We're almost to the wheel. This is Jakib with Annihilate. Now, Jakib kind of got with me, and we kind of worked on the plan together. And the plan was always to kind of take an Uber late. And Annihilate was one that was in the 17 tier, but we Tera banned it, and I think that was a good decision.
Yes.
This thing being able to Tera would have been no bueno. No bueno. It's Annihilate. You see it every draft. It's stupid bulky. Rage Fist, of course, gets boosted every time it gets hit. It gets healing with Drain Punch. It can run Scarf. It can run. It can do so many things. It's so good.
I'm a lover of Annihilate. I've used it in a couple of leagues so far, and it's like very, very versatile mon. And the Defiant ability and being a spin blocker, and like. So I can't spin on it, and I have to think about defogging on it. It's like, man, it's there's a lot of counterplay that needs to come in prep. It also does get stealth rocks too. Yep. So it's nasty.
And it discourages webs into you as well. So even if your team isn't quite as fast as somebody else, you don't have to worry about webs as much, or else it's possible that you're just going to get absolutely nay-nayed by this thing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something you have to respect in multiple ways in prep. And finally, Baldy, you're up last. Here we go. Necrozma Dawn Wings. Now, also new logo reveal, by the way. Look at that new logo. Shout out to Baldy for hitting me up last night at like 8 o'clock, being like, "Hey, I got a new logo," and me having to remake all these slides. But yeah, this is incredible. Baldy messaged me right before and told me kind of what he was thinking, and he was on the fence about Necrozma. It was either Necrozma or one other mon that ended up getting taken right after, and we ended up going with Necrozma. I think Necrozma is decent. Yes, it doesn't like dark types. But otherwise, it's very bulky. It's a good trick roomer. It does a lot of things. It's not locked into an item. It can do things. And plus, Moonguy's Beam is an insanely good move.
Yeah, I think that this mon might surprise some people. I think that it's lower on people's list just due to the the typing. Maybe the speed isn't as great, but I honestly think with Baldy and the way that he plays his games, he's a very analytical player, and he's very meticulous in his prep. So he'll find a way to fit this into good matchups. and I think that it's very, very strong.
Yeah, honestly, I think just avoid the dark types, and this thing will do a lot of work. For those who watched BBL, I mean, this thing did some work for Nexus. It's not a bad mon, honestly. And again, you hear these things about Fraud Watch. I personally think this is a lot better than what people give it credit for.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
You know, we'll have to see. But I think Baldy is going to be able to come up with some really cool stuff and really make this work. So, quick recap of round 1. Is there anything on here besides bundle that you think maybe shouldn't be here, or maybe you were surprised that you saw here, or what do we think about that?
To be honest, not a whole lot of surprises. We talked a little bit about like Terapagos before. I think that maybe like if there's anything on this list that I'm surprised to see go round 1, it's maybe that. But apart from that, I mean, you know, everything looks looks about what I would expect an Uber's draft to do. Lots of very, very, very strong mons in the first round.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think it's interesting how you have some of your lower on the draft order picks that are not the Ubers. And so that opens up those coaches to be able to take an Uber later on. And so you kind of get a more solid round 1, again, besides bundle. You kind of get a more solid round 1 pick that then can't be turned around and taken round 2, right? So now you don't have Baldy with Necrozma plus Dragapult, right? Yeah. So you don't end up with some craziness like that. So I definitely think there's a lot of strategy to those people who are in the lower part of the draft, and I think it gives them a bit of an edge too in that way of, yeah, you may not get the Kieran Black or the Palkia O or whatever, but you can still get something solid and build your core, your upper end core a lot faster than the other coaches can. So right. I definitely think there's some good strategy with that. So coming back around, we start back off with Baldy, and he grabs Great Tusk. Yeah, this is a nutty combination. This is a nutty combination. You want to go over why? I mean, to me, I think this is a perfect pairing. I think it's perfect.
Absolutely. I mean, we just talked about like ghost dark types and stuff and how Necrozma doesn't appreciate them. Great Tusk can deal with that, you know, and it's like it's the premier spinner in draft when it, like, this is a round 1 mon in almost any other sense of how leagues operate. So I think that if there was anything to pair with the Necrozma right away, this is a really strong pick. It gets really awesome coverage. You can run speed booster, attack booster, you're a spinner, like you're a rocker, you can do pretty much anything. So I think Baldy's got a lot of versatility so far, and I think that this is very, very, very strong pick.
Yeah, I honestly don't think there could have been a better pairing for Necrozma. Honestly, I think that this is the perfect round 2 mon for this. So really good stuff there. Next up, Ursaluna Blood Moon. This is cool. Typically you would think this may be like a round 3 pick, but honestly, I don't hate it with the combination with Annihilate. I think it gives you a really strong special attacker. Yes, everything's slow right now, but of course we can shore that up a little bit later. But good luck taking hits from these two. It has a fighting weakness. Of course, Annihilate covers that. There's a ghost weakness, and of course this covers that. So they cover each other well. You've got a physical special split. So just get some speed, and you've got some powerhouses going on right here.
Absolutely nasty mon. It's so good.
It is. it is. And I think people, like, you know, we obviously put it at a pretty high tier, but I still think people kind of underestimate just how bulky this thing is. It lives some ridiculous hits that it definitely should not live. And then just will wreck your face with Blood Moon. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So again, I think a really good pairing for round 2. Next, there we finally see the Valiant, and Iron Valiant plus Dialga. What is this?
This Valiant is one of the mons that I was actually, like, we talked about surprises the first round. I'm actually surprised nobody picked up Valiant until round 2. Just with how, you know, short in what's the word I'm looking for? Inventory. There aren't a whole lot of really good fairy types, is what I'm trying to say. And this thing is like It's nasty. It's literally Dragapult. It just does kind of whatever you want. It's more on the offensive side, obviously, but fast Encore user too, like has some pretty good utility. I think that this is a very, very good pairing for the Dialga for sure.
Yeah, and again, you don't know if it's physical, you don't know if it's special. It can boost on both sides. It's stupid fast. It can booster. I mean, it does so many things, and you put it with the friggin' Dialga. Oh my gosh, this thing is gonna be gross. And I don't think that I play Horizon this season. And if that's true, then thank goodness, because my gosh, I don't want to face this. This is a gross combination.
Good luck.
Next up, we've got Primarina. I think Primarina is a really good pairing for Dragapult. Really, really good. Of course, Dragon plus Fairy is great, but gives you some bulk there, gives you some more momentum, which is great. This thing is great as a bulky Calm Minder. It can be Scarfed, it can be Specs, it can be a lot of different things. So I think it's a great pairing for Bolt.
Yeah, I fully agree. Having slow pivot with flip turn and stuff, and having a bulky water like alongside the fairy typing, like you said, just very, very strong. I like it a lot.
Yeah, really good. This was almost Ruppy's Tera Captain, actually, one of them.
That would have been crazy.
It was, yeah, Tera Primarina would have been insane, but I think you'll see, I think Ruppy made the right call in changing it a little bit later. Next up, oh gosh. So this is something I wanted. I wanted Tera Iron Crown. Yes, Tera Iron Crown is allowed. And of course, we are doing the Open Tera with Tera Preview, like what we have done before. And so, Open Tera, Iron Crown.
Yeah, I think Iron Crown's nasty. Like, especially like even without Tera, you know, it's like it's a really, really good like AV mon. You know, it's got decent speed, good pivot with Volt Switch. Tachyon Cutter hits really, really hard, and now you give it access to potentially any coverage that it needs in a matchup. So like, I think that this is almost a must bring every week. Krebs team so far, even just 2 picks in, I like. Oh my god. This
team is ridiculous. I have been a huge Iron Crown believer since it came out. I think this mon is great. I've had to try to convince other people that it's great. And this was actually a max points Tera Captain. So this was 20 points in order to make this a Tera Captain. But to me, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Yeah, this thing is ridiculous. And like I said, I wanted this with Kyurem. I thought this plus Kyurem Black would have been
very
so good, but unfortunately it did not make it back, and I didn't expect it to. So very, very good stuff. And just wait, it gets worse. Next, Meowscarada, another really good pick. I have drafted this before. It does work. It absolutely does work. Protean, of course, being able to change its typing around. You can always crit with Flower Trick. I mean, it's fast, it hits hard. It's fantastic. It's a great hazard setter too. I've run it as a suicide lead a couple of times, and it did well in that regard as well. So it does absolutely everything you want it to do.
Yeah, I really don't have much to add. Like, it's just the great pivot mon that you need. You slot it in as a revenge killer. You know, after something goes down, you get knockoff. Like, you get the Flower Trick, like you said. Also gets triple axle, like to deal with some of those other like flying type mons.
Why did they give this thing triple axle?
You know, that's a great question. But like, honestly, just a really, really solid pick, I think, for him to pick up in round 2.
It's great. It's great. So yeah, with Terapagos, of course, Terapagos isn't the fastest thing out there, so this gives some needed speed, and so I think it's a really good pickup there. Next up, oh gosh, Gouging Fire. Now this is not one I expected from Arts, I will say. I did expect a dragon to go soon, but Gouging Fire was one that I did not think was going to go here. And so with Lugia, I don't think it's bad. Obviously Lugia covers the ground weakness, and so that helps in some ways, but either way, Gouging Fire is Gouging Fire. This thing is stupid bulky. It hits really hard. It can booster. It can Dragon Dance. It can do all the things. And Burning Bulwark is, of course, a fantastic set as well. My personal favorite set is the Spadef set. Not even the full offensive set. I think the SPDF set is highly underrated, and I think it does insane work. But that's just me. That's just me.
I honestly wholeheartedly agree with you. I think you got to take advantage of this thing just being fat. Like I've seen my favorite set on it is like the SPDF set, but you run Morning Sun, Dragon Dance, and Breaking Swipe.
Yep.
So you just throw it in on a physical attacker, you Breaking Swipe once or twice, you just outlive it, and then all of a sudden, oh well, Gouging Fire is at +2/+3 now. I guess I just lose the game. So,
exactly.
You know, nasty. Absolutely.
This thing is
nasty.
gross. This thing is absolutely gross. I know that this absolutely was a snipe for Tony. I know Tony was shooting for this, but yeah, Fluttermane plus Gouging Fire. No, thank you.
No thanks.
At least that didn't happen. So thank you, Arts, for at least preventing that nightmare. So that's good. Next up, we got Treads going with the Giratina Origin. Like we said, Giratina, of course, is going to cover that ground weakness, which is one of Tread's biggest problems. But this is another removal option. So, I mean, you're not setting up hazards on Jeremy. It's just not. It's not happening. But I've had Treads before. It does work. Gives him a pivot, which is great. It gets pretty good coverage. It's surprisingly bulky. I won't say it's the bulkiest thing, but surprisingly bulky in certain situations. And I think it's a good mon. I think it's a good pickup.
Yeah, I think Treads along with like Great Tusk, those two mons, just the Dawn fan line in general, are your premier spinners, and I think it really works well with Giratina here. Like you said, Giratina covers that ground weakness, also covers the fighting weakness too, which is really, really good. So
yep, and then of course it covers the dragon weakness too.
Yeah, exactly. So and you know, you have the ability to volt switch with this thing, which is something Great Tusk doesn't get, you know, a chance to do. So also some pretty good pivot, and I think that Treads pairs very nicely here.
I think so too. I think it's definitely a good pickup there. And then, why did you all let this happen? Why did you do this? What is happening? Shaman Sky. I thought this was going to be a round 1 pick for sure. I really thought this was going to go super fast. Probably like top 8 mon was what I really thought it was going to be.
Right.
But I think Shaman Sky is good. Now, the only thing, of course, is that it gets forced into running boots a lot. That's the only thing. But if you can get some proper removal on the team with it to where it doesn't have to do that, you just throw specs on this thing or scarf. Good luck to your opponent, because you're just going to get flinched every day, or you're going to have your SPDF lowered if you try to switch in, and then you're just going to die on the second hit. I mean, it's just, this thing's ridiculous. This thing ridiculous. I love it. If Kieran Black hadn't gotten taken, I think this was probably going to be my second pick, actually. But yeah, it's good. We can ignore that first pick, but this is the first real pick. And yeah, but obviously we've created a pretty big rock weakness at this point, so definitely going to need some good removal in order to keep rocks from absolutely wrecking your day on this team. Yeah,
for sure. I think it's a really fun mon. I love Shaman.
It is. It's cool. All right, and Weavile. This mon is very strong. I know that Emerald almost made this a Tera captain, I believe. We allowed Tera Weavile, which would have been insane. Absolutely insane. But yeah, this thing is really good. It's really good. Ever since it got Triple Axle back, that was it. That was all it needed.
Yeah, I know that Weavile sometimes gets a bad rep. You know, it's like we have Chen Pao at home kind of thing. But like,
there it is. Yep.
Honestly, like the Dark and Ice type stab, like I said, with Chen Pao, it's basically the same thing with Weavile, right? Like the speed tier is going to be really important. You know, dealing with some of those dragon types in the Ubers tier and stuff. I feel like it's really strong. And Dark type like is just really, really good too. Gives you a prankster immunity as well, which is really nice. A nice little added bonus there. But I like Weavile. I don't know if I would have grabbed it round 2, but you know what, I'm not going to question Emerald Miner's motives. I think Emerald Miner is a very intelligent player, and you know, he's going to make use of it really well.
Yeah, I think so too. Emerald always comes up with some crazy stuff, and like I said, I think this thing's going to be ridiculously strong. I think this as a Tera captain would have been nasty. Dumb, absolutely dumb, because then you just go Tera Dark. Show me your switch in. Yeah. Show me your switch in to Tera Dark Banded knockoff. It does not exist. It absolutely does not exist. So who knows? Maybe we'll see that later in the season, but I think Emerald's got a pretty good plan going into this. So really cool stuff. Now we see Sneasler from Grum, and I think everybody knows where this is going.
I'm not excited.
And I think everyone is also powerless to stop it.
Yeah.
This is gonna be gross. So obviously we're leaning towards a very strong possibility of Psychic Terrain. So the Deoxys, of course, does have access to Expanding Force.
Oof.
Oh boy, that's gross. So yeah, you just go Specs, Expanding Force from base 150 special attack, and then nothing survives. Absolutely nothing survives.
Yeah, you also add in the added effect of Psychic Terrain, and like teams not having access to like Sucker Punch priority on that Deoxys. Like now what do?
You do nothing. You just lose.
Yeah.
But again, same thing with Sneasler, right? Because now Sneasler is in Psychic Terrain, so you can't go for any kind of priority into it either. And so it's super fast. And so while it's not the bulkiest thing out there, it doesn't matter if it's just absolutely going nuts. So yeah, definitely going to be a ridiculously strong team. And so we'll just have to see how Grum decides to support these two absolute powerhouses offensively.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to play Grum this season.
Okay, another Tera captain.
Okay.
So, is this the hear me out section?
So okay. I made quite a few choices in Grace Period. So we did not take round 2 Iron Leaves. I don't want to catch
this was moved. Yeah.
However, I think that it's really fun. Iron Leaves is something that is another one of those fraud watch mons. Honestly, it's like, but as a Terra captain, if you can get rid of that Psychic and Grass type, I think that it can do pretty well. I've seen people like Nexus and stuff use it before, and like if you're not prepared for it, it can put in some decent work. And having the Cork Drive ability, you could be booster speed, booster attack, base 104 speed's pretty decent. I like Iron Leaves. I'm unsure of it myself, but I'm excited to see if I can make use of it for sure.
Yeah, Leaves is tough. I've been calling it a fraud ever since it came out. And I faced it. I think I faced Keegan when we did LTM, and he had Tera on it in the low tier league, and it did fine. It did okay, but yeah, I not to pop your balloon or anything, but I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fraud train on this thing, but I don't know. Tera fighting on this thing is really good. I think that there's some potential there. It still is a booster mon, and so if you're not prepped for it, there's some potential there. So it's definitely not useless by any means, but we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see if we'll have to see what you can do with it.
For sure.
All right, round 2. Now this was actually a funny story on this. Originally, this was an Urshifu Rapid Strike, mainly because he put in the draft chat the wrong thing and didn't, and so we gave him this. Then he said, "Wait, can I switch this to the normal Urshifu?" And I was like, "No, you already have an Uber." So he was stuck with Urshifu Rapid Strike, and then finally got Corviknight in a trade later on. So you'll see Urshifu Rapid Strike later on, and that was the result of a trade. But Corviknight. So on a team that we are predicting probably will go with Sun, given the mascot and how this starts. What do you feel like on Corviknight on a possible Sun team?
I think it's an interesting choice. Definitely not one that I expected. Obviously, if you put your team under Sun and you make Corviknight's fire weakness a little bit worse, then it's something that you got to get a little creative working around. But with that being said, it's not the end of the world. Corviknight's super bulky, gets U-turn, roost. It's really good at like dealing with the things that it needs to. So like I said, it's an interesting choice. I don't think it might be as bad as people think it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a Corviknight at the end of the day, and yeah, +1 wanted it really bad. Yeah, it's not a bad mon by any means. It's good, right? Just it being on a Sun team is going to be interesting, and so I'm just wondering how we pivot around that, and just make sure that it never gets taken advantage of on that, because you got to watch out for opposing Weather Ball, right? Because Weather Ball got a pretty big distribution this generation, and so a lot of a lot of mons are going to have access to that and bring that into those opposing Sun teams. Who knows? Maybe the Torkoals will not actually get Torkoal, and we'll just have to see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I definitely think that this may be an interesting pick that we'll just have to see if it can do the normal work. Yeah, it's a ground immunity. Yeah, it is a ground immunity, which definitely helps, because obviously if you're doing a Sun team, you're going to have a lot of ground weaknesses. So yeah, we'll just have to see how this does, but definitely not a bad mon at all.
For sure.
And then another steel type, Golden Go. I love Golden Go. This is such a fun mon. The premier spin blocker, the premier defog blocker. Hits really hard. I think it works really well with Kirim. Of course, splitting up that physical and special side. This of course is immune to those fighting type moves. I think they cover each other very well. I don't think they share a weakness, if I'm thinking about this right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think they share a weakness, which is good. So they cover each other in that way really well, which is good. But yeah, this is something I used back in Unpl Season 3, and it did work then, and I think that it will hopefully do work again now. Of course, I'll be talking about this a lot more in the draft analysis, which of course, make sure to check out all of the coaches down in the description below. I've got the paste down there for all of these coaches' channels, so make sure to check that out. And all of their draft analyses are going to be going up later today, so make sure to check all of those out. They're going to go into detail on why they chose what they chose, and it's going to be a lot more into it. So yeah, definitely make sure to check all of those out. Subscribe to those channels, like their videos, all the YouTube things. Next up, Volcarona with the Palkia. Volcarona's gross. We did not allow it to Tera because that's even more gross. Gosh, yeah, no. If I had allowed Tera Volcarona, y'all can just fire me as the owner now, because that's ridiculous. But very solid mon. What do you think about it with the combination of Palkia and Volcarona as a really strong offensive core?
What I would say to that is bring an Assault Vest, or 2 or 3 of them, because the special attack and the pressure already from these 2 mons in general, like it's very, very strong. Volcarona, you know, obviously I feel sometimes it's gonna get pigeonholed into running boots, but like I don't know that you care about doing that.
But does it need an item?
I mean,
it's really,
like,
because
you just quiver dance, you know,
right? You're gonna quiver dance, or you're just gonna fiery dance and boost up anyway. So you know, you don't need Scarf, you don't need Specs, you don't need any of that other stuff. So it's like, I think we're in a position to where it can run that and it's fine. Plus, Quiver Dance boosts its special attack. You touch it and you get burned. So it's like, what it does all the things you need it to do. It's great. It's really great. Obviously, the 4 times weakness to rock if it's hit with a rock move is not great, but besides that, this thing is solid. It's very solid.
Very much so.
And back to the top of the round, we got Roaring Mid. Roaring Mid in combination with Magearna. Oh boy. This is a pretty gross offensive combination, I think. Again, I think that Roaring Moon without Tera, which I believe we Tera banned this as well. I think with Tera, this thing is dumb. I think this thing's absolutely dumb when it has Tera. But without Tera, I still think it's not quite as good as what people give it credit for.
I mean, it's just strong, right? You know, having, you know, the ability to click knockoff and deal like 75% of the HP of like a bunch of mons is just like good enough, you know. And it's like very fast. You throw a speed booster on it, you're guaranteeing a hit or a kill on something. And I think in combination with Magearna, obviously that makes it very, very powerful. You know, it's like fairy types are obviously not Roaring Moon's favorite thing in the world, but Magearna does not mind them at all. So very, very solid pairing, I think.
Yeah, and I think honestly the biggest problem Roaring Moon has is just with how predictable it is in a lot of cases, right? Because it runs one of 3 items generally: booster or band or scarf. Generally, it's going to be one of those 3, and so you can reasonably assume that it's going to be one of those in prep. Now, Zand may surprise us and you know, break out some insane stuff, but a lot of times it gets stuck into one of those three, and so the lack of unpredictability, I think, is really what holds this back a little bit more. Whereas you have something like Magirna that has a ton of stuff it can do.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And so I think that's the only thing with Roaring Moon, but otherwise I think it's cool. And of course, one of the biggest threats to it are fairies, and Zan took the best one on the board. So what do you want to do about that? So that is the end of round 2. Anything you see here that you're surprised went round 2 or anything?
I know what I see that shouldn't be there.
Well,
you know, it might be an Iron Leaves, but
it might be an Iron Leaves. There are a few that are out of order here based on some grace period stuff. But
yeah, but like overall, a lot of really good role players in round 2. I think Tera Iron Crown is the big winner in this round for me.
Absolutely.
But you know, overall, I think people have picked up some really solid pairs that kind of lend towards a really good rest of their draft. So, really solid picks.
Yeah, for sure. All right, round 3, Quaquaval, the premier snowballer. I mean, shoo.
Man, the week 1 opponent gets very strong. Like these 3 are already a nightmare to prep for, and Quack is just like, even if you're ready for it, even if you have answers for it, you know,
doesn't matter.
It's like it doesn't matter. You know, it's like you click Aqua Step once and like, oh well, there's a Moxie boost, and like, well, now what do I do? And it's just a byproduct of both water and fighting stab just being really good into a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Also a spinner, which never hurts. You know, so it's like I think Quack has like made a name for itself in draft for very good reasons. And on this team especially, like it already looks really good.
I have seen more people accidentally sweep with this Mon than any other Mon. You're not even trying. You're just like, okay, I'll pick up this KO here, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I just win.
Game's over.
Yeah, so it's super strong. I considered grabbing this round 3, but ended up going with a different direction. But really strong. Blissey round 3. Now listen, this was a hear me out moment for +1. This is +1's signature draft Mon.
Yeah,
and so. I have not faced a Blissey in draft this generation. I don't think. I don't think I've faced one in Scarlet and Violet at all. But I don't think it's a bad pickup here, right? Because your team is not particularly weak to fighting, and I think that you can deal with that. Of course, as a special wall, good luck. This thing is super bulky. It does get soft boiled back, right?
Yes.
It did get that back.
Does.
Okay, great. So it does have the recovery. The only thing really that's hurting it is, of course, the PP drop for all healing this generation. But I mean, this thing is really bulky, really bulky. Yeah. And I was already talking to +1 about a strat here with one of his later picks, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But I told him that I would be very disappointed if he didn't bring a certain strat that Blissey can do in combination with something else, and so we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I think Blissey is fine. I just think it normally gets overshadowed by a lot of other things, and so we'll just have to see. But I again, this is +1 signature Mon. If anybody's gonna make this thing look broken, I know where to look. So I think it's gonna be a good pick. Next up, Glamora for me. Yeah, Glamora is another Mon that I've taken before. I took this on the season I had the Rain team, so season 4, I believe. And I've never had Glamora plus Golden Go.
Right.
But that combo is gross. I'll just that combo is gross. Yes, my team is very ground weak, but I have one of the best setters of hazards in the game, along with the one that prevents you from getting rid of them.
Yeah,
so,
I think Glamora is just like, you can never go wrong with it, right? It's like you always like, it's a great Sashly, but it's like it's got good special attack too and a really good move pool. So it's like, you know, you might be expecting a sort of Sash hazard lead, and then all of a sudden Glamora clicks Meteor Beam on you, and then you're like, oh, well, now I have a threat to deal with that put me on the back foot from the first turn of the game. So
and it's got rock polish too. I mean, it can be a threat. It can be an absolute threat. So I'm excited to. I didn't get to use it to its fullest extent when I had it this past time, so I'm excited to really let it shine a lot more this time around. So really cool stuff. Walking Wake. All right, if you didn't think it was going sun, we're going sun. We're going sun this time around. This was also Tera banned, I believe.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, and again, Wake is often on fraud watch. When it's not in the sun, a lot of times people like to call it a fraud. When it's in the sun, everybody gets really scared, and so it's most likely going to be in sun on this team, and that might be a threat. But there was no way I was letting this thing Tera. No, not a chance.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's a very polarizing one. Either it's very, very strong or it's kind of underwhelming. But obviously, with the support that it appears to be getting at this point, I think that it's a really good choice.
I think there's potential here for sure. And of course, it's just so unique, and having a water type that works really well in sun. There's no other mon that can do that. And so to me, that does give it some value there. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Then we have the new and improved Volcarona. Tell me about your futuristic theme here.
Yeah, so it's kind of working out that way. It's kind of keeping with the trend of like a very, very offensive team. I've never used Moth before. I've prepped and played against it multiple times to know that it's really, really strong. And I was just like, man, the move pool's crazy, the speed tier's crazy. Like, sure, I'm 4 times weak to ground. It is what it is. But you could run an air balloon, you could go boots to get around your rocks weakness. And like sometimes there's nothing that switches into just Fiery Dance. So you slap a speed booster with Fiery Dance, and then all of a sudden, it's kind of like Guacamole. It's not nearly as snowbally, but like it has a lot of potential, and you really, really got to be looking out for it.
Yeah, for sure. I think this thing's very gross, and it gets insane coverage. It can you try to get a water mon in on this, and you just go for a grass move. I mean, it gets all the coverage it needs. It's fantastic. And again, I think that as the team develops more, you'll kind of see that it just gets stronger. Next up, Ting Lu. Oh boy, as if this team couldn't get any more gross. Now you've got a mon that is immune to someone trying to take advantage of your psychic terrain if you've got an opposing expanding forcer.
Yeah, Ting Lu's super, super good on this team, I think. It's just good in general, right? It's so fat, it will never die to any single move, like, ever. So it's like, I think it's really solid support. You get some of the rocks chipped to break up some sort of, like, sashes and get a little bit of extra damage, and then your first and second round picks just click buttons and kill everything. So it's like, these 3 seem like not a must bring, but, like, they make the argument to be brought to like literally every game.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't bring them. They're just really good. It's super strong. Yeah, Ting Lu's gross, and it just gets worse from here. Grum cooked. I'm just saying, he did. It's great. Next up, there's the Urshifu. We talked about this a little bit earlier. So originally this was a Corviknight, and it got traded. But I've had this before. Emerald has had this before, and Emerald goes off with this mon. This is one of his signature mons. And he does really well with it. So I already know that he's gonna kick some tail with this thing. It's great. It's really great. The automatic crits are really what get this really get this going. And that makes it almost impossible to really prep for, because it's not like you can just start boosting your defense. It just ignores you. So it doesn't care. The only time I've ever been able to counter this was when I had Tauros Aqua. And I brought what's the ability, the one where you get angry?
Oh, Anger Point.
Yeah, I brought Anger Point that week, and then switched it in, and then he got me to +6. So that was cool. That was cool. That's the only way I've seen to truly counter an Urshifu Rapid Strike. Besides that, you're done. It's good. So and especially now that it gets Trailblaze, and Swords Dance, game over. It's good. Then Glow King.
To be expected, right? You get the pivot for the bundle. Like Chilly Reception is just good. And this is another mon too that it's like it's deceptive. Well, not even deceptively. It's just really hard to kill.
It's ridiculous. Now, I came very close to going this over Glamora.
Absolutely.
But this thing's gross. This thing is gross. And so you now can see that there is a bit of a snow core going on light snow. It's not a hard snow core, but
Yeah.
light snow core with bundle here. It's Glow King. What do you want? Of course, you've got a ground weakness, but there's an immunity with the shaman, so I think that those cover each other okay. But again, we don't have anything to cover the rock weakness just yet, so hopefully we'll be looking to fix that a little bit later. Alola round 3.
Interesting choice.
I
will say.
Yeah, I don't know. Alomomola, I always say Alomomola, and that's not right. But
Yeah.
Alomomola, I don't know. I feel like it's really early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I'm an Aloe hater myself. I mean, just when I draft, I look for a lot of versatility in mons, and it's like obviously this thing's very good, but it only does kind of like one or two things. It's very good at being a pivot mon. You know, your regenerator is really strong.
It's always running the same set, right? It's always Scald, Flip Turn, Wish, Protect, right?
Yeah,
that's what it runs. And there's not really a whole lot else that it does. Now, in fairness, this thing has viability in Ubers, right?
Yeah,
in your normal Uber tier, it has viability there because of its bulk, because it's a pure water type, all that good stuff. I still feel like it's early in this. I feel like we could have gotten something else here and then saved the Aloe pick till later.
Handed Aloe incoming. I would love to see it. I really would.
Yeah. So and who knows? Maybe this will end up being kill leader, and we can all shut up. But I don't know. I feel like it's very early.
Right. For sure.
Petulant. I also thought about this. This was very close to being one of my Tera captains, actually. This thing's cool. Petulant, when it first came out, I think a lot of people were kind of like, oh, 87 and all the stats. Like, whatever. Doesn't matter. This thing's good. This thing is verified good. It can run several different sets, even though its move pool is limited. It gets what it needs to.
Yeah.
And I think that it's definitely a cool pick here. Again, another ground weakness. So again, Lugia's having to carry that a little bit more here, but we'll see if that changes later.
Yeah, this team's fat. It's already so fat.
It's
hard
gross.
to get through.
It's gross.
So, it's a cool pick.
Yep, for sure. Next up, there's the regular Dawn fan. So all three of the Dawn fans have gone. So the third best spinner in the game. And so now we've got Terapagos plus this as removal. So really good removal on this team so far. And we've got good setting with rocks here, and plus you've got spikes and T-spikes with Meowscarada. So I think we're off to a good start on that. I will say, as far as having like immediate breaking power, we're a little limited right now. But that may change.
Yeah. Fantastic util so far for Golden Guy. He's building a nice core of things that have good versatility. So like you pick up one or two breakers later in the draft, and then all of a sudden things are looking really, really good. Yeah.
I think that's really what we need, is just some really strong offense, and then I think we're going to be in a pretty decent spot. So we'll see how that goes. Why are we letting Crep get away with this? This is ridiculous. So yeah, Zama plus Terra Crown plus Tornti. Yeah.
Nuts.
Now listen, I'm a bit of a Tornti hater as well. It's fat. It gets regen. It's not bad. However, I do think that it gets overblown in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it does get pigeonholed in a lot of ways as well. I think that it clicks the same moves a lot. Yes, it can be mixed, but you're really never going to see one go fully physical. So you may see a few special moves and then like superpower on there 1 week. But overall, what it's going to do is it's going to come in, it's going to click U-turn, and then you'll see it again in a few turns. Then it's going to do the exact same thing, and then it's going to do the exact same thing. And so to me, I'm like, is it worth the 18 points or whatever this is to U-turn around all the time? And I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with it too a lot of the time. Either it's really good in matchups, or it's at worst a reliable switch into a lot of stuff. And it doesn't suffer from having to run boots. It's like, even if you're not, I don't think it gets roost anymore.
No, it does not.
But the regenerator helps it just kind of pivot in and do what it needs to do. So yeah. I like the pick. I don't think it's bad.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad mon. I think it does get, I think it gets overblown with how good people think it is, but still not a bad mon at all. Then Rillaboom. So now we're okay. We have another terrain possibility here. Rillaboom's good, and I think on this squad, I think it makes a lot of sense. We have another dedicated physical attacker here. Another pretty bulky mon. Rillaboom is deceptively bulky. Gives you priority with Grassy Glide. Gives you more pivot. A lot of the things that I want out of a team. You know, I think it's strong. I think it's a really good pick for Ruppy.
Yeah, I agree. I love the Rillaboom line. I've literally used all 3 mons in multiple leagues. So like I can attest that it's really, really good. And you can sometimes just slap a choice band on it, let it click Grassy Glide. Like it's just good. You can get some slow U-turns out. It's a great AV mon. So I really like what Ruppy's doing so far. It's really cool.
I mean, you put band on it or just slap an AV on it and you're good to go. You can even, if you would rather be more defensive, throw the Grassy Seed on this.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with this. It's good, and I think it works out, and you'll see how this just gets even better with some later picks from Ruppy. Lando T going round 3.
Yeah, nuts.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, I like Lando on this team though. Like it
makes sense.
These 3 mons in combination with each other are another like trio that I see coming to almost like every single game.
100%.
Like Lando with Intimidate, you know, it really helps out like Dialga on the physical side, that sort of thing. You get
Plus
a rock
ground
setter,
immunity.
good pivots, like can be special if you want it to be. So I like the Landorus line a lot, and I think that this is really cool.
No, I think this is a really, really good pickup. Good for Horizon, bad for everybody else. It's very, very strong here. Yeah, and so this is our first pivot option. So we don't have a lot of pivot yet, but I think that will hopefully change going forward. But a lot of really strong offense, both physically and specially, from all of these mons. All of them can really work on both sides. And so, yeah, and this covers the ground weakness for Dialga. So really, really good pairing there. I think that's great. Then we've got Metagross coming out for Jakib.
Metagross is crazy. Like this team, like to be fair, it's not looking very fast at the moment, but the sheer like natural bulk combined with naturally good offense, I feel is just really good. Like all 3 of these mons make a good argument for being like a weakness policy set every single week. And you know, Metagross got some significant buffs that it needed to keep up with the power creep in this gen. You know, you get knockoff, you get psychic fangs, you get body press, like
It gets agility. And heavy slam.
Yeah, it's good. It is very good. I like Metagross.
It's very good. So yeah, it's slow, but you just agility plus weakness policy, and I mean, now that it has heavy slam, I mean, it does insane damage. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I think it's good. Obviously, the team is slow, but maybe there's a reason for it, and we'll just have to see as we go forward. But yeah, still very strong team. And rounding out this round is Tinkaton. I think everybody knows that in Unpl we are all Tinkaton believers, and I do think round 3 might be a smidge early, but it's still an absolutely fantastic mon. Not even so much for its offenses, but as a util mon, it gets everything you want. It gets absolutely all of the utility you want. So I think it's super strong.
Yeah, I talked a little bit earlier about fairies being like kind of a premier thing. I like Tinkaton a lot. Obviously, same typing as Magearna. This is like the only mon that I can ever think of that actually can make use of like the pickpocket ability too. So, you know, it's like you could, if you get your item knocked off or you lose anything, you run a citrus berry or something, then you can take an item, and it can usually make use out of a lot of stuff. So I like Tinkaton a lot. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I originally had a set because I ran Tinkatink back on in the fall brawl, and you run what is it, hammer arm with eject pack.
Ooh, that's cool. Yeah.
And so you drop your speed, you switch out, then you come back in, you pickpocket something. There are ways to make this work for sure. And yeah, I mean, you don't have to come in and click Gigaton Hammer every time. You don't even have to bring Gigaton Hammer every time, because this thing is so good at being a T-Waver. It's so good at just all kinds of things. But then there's that one time where you bring Sword Stance, and you better hang on,
Right.
Because it can do it all. It's really, really cool. So
Deceptively fast too.
it is deceptively fast. Absolutely. For a steel type, it's very fast. So that is the end of round 3. Anything that you think that you would like to comment on? I think it's interesting that we had no Terra captains in round 3.
Yeah, I figured after all the Ubers that like go around in round 1, like round 2, round 3 would be like really, really crucial times to pick up a really good Terra captains.
Me too.
So I'm kind of surprised that we haven't seen a ton of that yet. But I think every pick in this round is solid in its own regard. You know, even the bulkier mons like the Blissey and the Aloe, you know, it might be early, obviously, but you know, if they're signature mons and they fit the mold of what you're trying to build, I think it's really good. So I like this round a lot. This is a very, very strong, strong
a lot of strong stuff going right now. Really, really cool. So let's jump into round 4. Kicking us off is Thundy T as a Terra captain. I don't have the little symbol over on the left side, my bad. But yeah, this thing is it's a byproduct of me having to remake all of these things at the last minute. Thanks a lot, Baldy. All your fault. But yeah, Thundy T is already strong, and then you throw Terra on it as well.
The base 140 special attack in combination with like the coverage it gets, and like Volt Absorb is really good because that enables you to go for like maybe even bulky like water type like Thunderous sets. Like bulky waters are deceptively good. So
or just flying, so that you have a flying
right.
you have a flying move
Finally.
that's actually reliable because you don't get air slash or anything, and you're immune to opposing electric. I mean, it's just, there's so many types that can work for this thing.
Yeah,
it's an insanely good Terra captain. I it's good. Somebody had to take it, and it might as well be Baldy. It's really, really strong for sure.
Crazy roster so far.
Oh yeah. Next up, we've got Ogerpon. So a little bit of speed now showing up on Jakib's squad here, and of course we have the Ogerpon rule in UNPL, where when one Ogerpon goes, they are all off the table. So you will not see the Hearthflame or the Cornerstone or the Teal. But I think this works. It gives us another pivot mon. Well, it gives us our second pivot mon. Gives us some really needed speed, and it's strong. It's really strong. This was Terra banned, so we did not allow any of the Ogerpons outside of Cornerstone to Terra this season.
Sure.
But yeah, I still think this is a strong pick. Gives a water type, which I think is needed here. And a grass type, which is good, but I think this is a solid pick.
Yeah, the water absorb helps out the Ursaluna a little bit too, so
absolutely
that never hurts as well.
No, I think we're covering the weaknesses well here, and and there's water absorb is clutch for Blood Moon. Yep,
for sure.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. I definitely agree. It's really, really strong. So I like to see that. Oh, this team just gets even stronger. Terra Manaphy. This was again one of those mons I was on the fence on. This thing's really strong. This thing's really good. Of course, it has base 100 across the board. Pure water type, but it'll be a pure something else type probably when it becomes Terra. This is going to be gross. This is going to be absolutely gross to have to try to go up against.
Yeah, I think the open Terra really enables it. Like, obviously, you're always worried about potential tail glow or take heart sets and stuff. And so you can kind of prep for the Manaphy in that regard, but now you give it access to Terra and you're like, oh, well, now I need to adjust my plan and I need to really, like, take a deep dive into what I think this Terra is going to be. And if you get it wrong, you know what?
You might just lose.
You might just lose the game. So I think it's a very, very good pick for this team.
And even then, if you over prep for this, I see 3 other mons over there that will just kind of take advantage. And yes, take heart is allowed. Should we have banned it? Probably, but it's too late now. So take heart is allowed on this, as well as tail glow. We do not have a ban on any of those moves. So this is going to be a huge threat for sure.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm terrified, but it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Next up, there it is. This was a plan that Ruppy had been working on for a while. Terra Halucha. I am so pumped to see this.
Yeah, this is really cool. In one of the other leagues I'm playing in right now, I do have a Rillaboom and Halucha on the team, but now you add Terra to this equation. Like, what's stopping like a Terra Grass, or like not Terra Grass, like Terra Flying acrobatics after a Grassy Seed? Like, you know, it's like
show me your switch in. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, Halucha's nasty. Fantastic speed. Fast Encore user is really, really good too. I think that Halucha could be a very valuable support mon if it really wants to be. And like, you know, it might only have like what 92 attack, but like you get access to Sword Stance and you can set screens with that Dragapult of yours. So I think that Ruppy has like one of the best synergies between the four mons that he's got so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love Terra Halucha. That's a really, really cool pick.
I think this is incredibly strong. Yeah, we were between, when we were looking at this, we were looking at either the Primarina for Terra or we were looking at Halucha, and I think Halucha is going to end up being overall more solid as just that either mid-game breaker or just clean it all up at the end. Because yeah, Terra Flying acrobatics, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
what do you do, you know? So it's, yeah, this thing's gonna be gross, and I'm excited to see this hopefully toward the top of the leaderboard. It's gonna be really, really cool. Then we've got Screamtail. So we've went hard offense so far with Crep, and then now some support. What do you think about the doubling up on Psychic here? But what do you think about the focus here with Screamtail?
I think it's totally fine. You know, Terra Iron Crown getting access to whatever type it wants. I don't think, you know, you have to worry too much. This is another roster where it's like really solid offense, but really good natural bulk, and Screamtail is just very fat, and it doesn't even need to run stuff in its defenses. You know, it's very fast, so you can often get away with just going like max HP, max speed. And, you know, this is a rocker, it's a wish passer, you know, and sometimes you can do like weakness policy sets or go for like a bulk up Calm Mind sort of set with this thing too. So I think Screamtail is really cool. It's a dragon immunity as well. Not that you're really worried about that with this team. But I think that Crep's building a very difficult team to deal with right now.
I think so too. I'm a Screamtail believer, and it can be both that bulky set or it can be offensive. It gets the bulk up, pretty sure it gets Calm Mind, it gets the moves on both sides, it can do whatever it wants to do. So it's going to be a tough mon to deal with for sure, and I think it works well on this squad. Yeah, so next up, the other Thunderous being named a Terra captain as well.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of the same arguments. You know, obviously it's not as powerful on the special side, but like you have the option to go physical or special. Prankster is really, really good with this as well. So I like both the Thundies, like I see being very, very strong threats. So,
and I mean, obviously Terra Ice is kind of screaming for everything, but also again, Terra Flying on both physical or special side with this thing can work. This thing gets bulk up, so you can Prankster bulk up, or you can run like a bulkier kind of thing and run Terra like Thunderwave or something like that.
Yeah,
a lot of options for this thing. I think that makes a lot of sense here for sure, and I think this is shaping up. I think this is shaping up very nicely. Greninja, again, Art's out here with the insane offense. Obviously the team is leaning a little bit more special right now, but I'm sure that'll get fixed later. Yeah, Greninja is incredibly strong. It's great. It got buffed obviously with the access to the loaded dice with Water Shuriken, but and then it got nerfed on Protean, so it's kind of give and take there. But still a great offensive pivot, still a great offensive mon with the water and dark typing. It of course gets like Grass Knot, it gets Gunk Shot, it gets a lot of really good coverage that it needs, and so it's fantastic. I think it's a great pick here for sure.
Yeah, especially to get it in round 4. Like,
yeah, that's super late. Super late for Greninja, but yeah, really, really good pick, I think, and works well on this team. It's a second pivoter, of course. We had the Parting Shot on the Pecharunt, but now we have a U-turner here as well, so that definitely helps out. Then round 4 Darkrai. What the heck is this?
Yeah, I saw this too, and I'm like, man, the tandem between like the Ghost and the Dark type on this team, the Giratina O plus Darkrai, like
It's gross.
Man, it's fantastic. You get such good coverage with Darkrai. Darkrai is one of those mons that I see either do extremely well, or it kind of ends up being a little underwhelming. And I definitely think it just like it's enabled by the rest of its team. And I think that, you know, the slow pivot with Aloe and like making sure that you keep rocks off of it with your other mons, like I feel like Darkrai is going to do a lot of work so far with the 4 that we've seen.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
I'd agree. I had Darkrai last season and it didn't do so well for me. That was probably a skill issue on my part, but yeah, and then I traded it away and made it somebody else's problem. But you also look at other people like Playmore, right? Playmore had this in their most recent season and did great with it. So it's definitely got a lot of potential. It's certainly not as good as it used to be back in the Sun and Moon days and earlier, but still, I still think it's a good mon. It still has a really good special attack. It's still really fast. You can still, it's trick mon. It gets really good coverage, so it can cover the fairies with Sludge Bomb. A lot of good stuff there. So definitely a really cool mon to have there. And like you said, I think it works really well with Giratina as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Another one that this one confused me. This one really confused me. I haven't seen anyone draft Dondozo in a hot minute. It was on everybody's. Everybody wanted it when Scarlet and Violet first came out, and I really haven't seen it a whole lot recently. Just because it tends to be a bit passive.
Right.
Yes, unaware and being super bulky, it can do that, and so it can be that anti-setup for sure. But it doesn't get flip turn, I don't think. And so I think that really hurts this thing a lot, because it doesn't really hit all that hard. It doesn't get that great of coverage. And so in that way, I think it ends up being just something that sits there for a while, and then just, you know, you can, your opponent can kind of set up on you and then eventually just brute force through you. And then you've got all these boosts that go into whatever is after that, and then you're just kind of done. So yeah, I don't know about Dozo round 4, and maybe there's something I'm missing.
Yeah, maybe. I kind of have the same opinion. I like the fact that it's unaware. You know, you have a really specially bulky Slowking, really physically bulky Dondozo. So it's a funny mon. If it had flip turn and the ability to pivot out slowly, like you said, I think it makes the mon a lot better. But you know what? Maybe we're wrong. Maybe Dondozo will come up big in a few games. I'm sure it probably will. But
and listen, I've been wrong before, and if Dondozo ends up going nuts, then you know that's on me. But
for sure,
I don't know. I'm waiting to see that happen. So we'll just have to see on that. And then oh boy, Tera Dirge.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite picks of the draft, honestly.
This
I think
is great.
That, like, we talk unaware with Dondozo, this is a mon that makes use of it a lot better. Just
this is way better. Yeah.
You know, you have Slack Off, obviously. You know, you can boost your special attack with Torch Song. You get Will-O-Wisp. Like, it's a good Pokemon. And on
really
this team,
good.
Especially, when you have that tandem of Weavile and Urshifu to help you deal damage. And, you know, you got to worry about Tera Dirge now. I think it's crazy. I like this a lot. This is one of my favorite picks.
Yeah, this is absolutely insane. Absolutely insanely strong. I love Dirge. I'm a huge Dirge believer. I think that this is an absolutely incredible pick. Obviously Fairy, you see that a lot, but by no means is that the only type that this will work with. There's, you know, Terra Grass works, Terra Water works. There's a lot that you can do with this, and so I think the Open Terra is going to really open Emerald up to making some really creative team building decisions, and it's going to be difficult. I do have to play Emerald this season, and I am I'm very scared. I'm very scared of especially this mon in particular. I'm very scared. So we're just gonna have to see how he uses that. Next up, Bramblegast. Very early Bramblegast. Very early.
Very much so.
However, I think those who have been in UNPL for any amount of time know that I am a huge Bramblegast believer. I have drafted it before. This thing does work. Okay, I like this mon. It's a spinner, it's a spiker, it's a spin blocker. It gets poltergeist, so it can hit hard. It gets the priority, which is great. I came very close to getting a huge sweep over an undefeated team in like week 6 with it back in season 3. It's a good mon. It's a good mon. Is it a round 4 mon? I don't know about that, but it is a very good mon. It gets, and plus Wind Rider. I think that people don't talk about Wind Rider enough. Being immune to almost every flying move outside of Air Slash, and Heat Wave, and all of these other things that are super effective into it, and you just say no.
Yeah, I like Bramble Gas too. Also gets Strength Sap, I believe, right?
It does.
So like I think that it's a cool mod, and Wind Rider is a really funny ability for it to have too. And plus Ghost Grass Stab is pretty strong into a lot of stuff, and I know that Grum has drafted this and used this before, so like he knows his way around the mon, so I think it's gonna do well.
Yeah, the worst thing about this mon is trying to get it to work in the thumbnail. That is the worst thing about this mon.
Fair.
I've never been able to make a good thumbnail with Bramblegast in it, but besides that, I like this mon. I like this mon a lot.
Sure.
All right. Now this is one that we've seen a few times because normally this is allowed as a low tier Tera in the league. So talk to me about your particular reason on Tera Hariyama.
Yeah, Big Yama's nasty. That's all I'm gonna say. Hariyama has a bit of a soft spot for me. I've used it in a lot of leagues before. I think that there is so much versatility behind this thing. Like, you could go a Guts Flame Orb set. It's a very powerful Assault Vest mon with thick fat as well, and having access to Tera too. It's like, if you go like Tera Steel Bullet Punch, you could go Belly Drum sets on it too. Like, I think that Hariyama is vastly underrated. That's just me. I know that people like Hariyama. I love Hariyama. I don't know. It just made sense to me at the time. So I'm excited to use it. I think that it's going to be a really good role player for sure.
I think it's strong. I mean, it has base 150 something.
Yeah, it's a lot.
HP or something. Like it's insanely strong. And plus, I mean, it hits hard. You can go Tera Normal Facade. I mean, you can do a lot with this thing. And so again, I think Open Tera with this thing is especially helpful. And that's another thing I think is interesting in the conversation of what is a good Tera captain based on the 2 main rules that are used for Tera, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So obviously this is a rule set we've been using for a little while at Unpl, but we started with the you pick 3, one of them stab kind of rule. And honestly, I think Hariyama doesn't benefit nearly as much under that, where I think other mons can work just fine with it. I think Hariyama definitely appreciates the Open Tera a lot more. So definitely a cool pick. I approve. All right. If anybody was wondering, I mean, come on. I mean,
it's a given now.
Yeah, like Tera Venusaur. I wish that my symbol was somewhere else, or that his model didn't have me put it right on his snoot, but there it is. Yeah, Tera Venusaur. You've seen it. You know how strong it is. A lot of leagues have had this in mid-tier Tera. We had it a few seasons ago, I think, when we did mid-tier. It's strong. It's very strong. Of course, it gets Weather Ball for the Tera Fire stuff, and that's very common. But I mean, Tera Ground is also a thing. You've also got just straight up Tera Grass or Tera Poison. I mean, it can do a lot of different things. Chlorophyll, of course, and I mean, come on, it's gonna be a Sun team. We're gonna see Torkoal here in a minute. Just you wait. It's good. It's very good.
Yeah, I have nothing else to add.
Yeah. I guess the only thing is, like, it looks a lot bulkier than it is.
Yeah,
but besides that, this thing's kind of a monster. So really cool stuff. All right. I've been wanting to use this for a hot minute.
This is crazy.
I've been wanting to do this for so long. Of course, I had low kicks back in LTM when I did that league with a lot of the BBR guys, and this thing it wasn't Tera back then, but now it is. Oh boy, y'all better be ready. This thing does insane damage. If you bring in something that resists one of its stab moves, I don't care. I don't care. Knockoff is doing like 50% to you. I don't care. If not more. I mean, it's just absolutely wild. Yeah, Tera low kicks is really strong. One of the only mons in the game where Tera bug is actually incredibly optimal. Yeah. Outside of something like maybe Haxorus, like you're really not looking to do Tera bug on many things, but yeah, this thing's strong, and I'm very much looking forward to cooking up stuff with this. It's cool. It's very, very cool mon. This was actually my first shiny in Scarlet and Violet, and cool. So it's got a soft spot for me as well. So really cool. Oh boy, more bulk. This yeah, Blissey plus this is gross.
Yeah, how do we beat this team? How do we knock it out?
You don't.
Like, for real. Like,
you're like, okay, I'm gonna go for knockoff here, and then you just switch into Volcarona and get burned, and then you're sad.
Yeah, exactly. I like DOD like a lot. You know, it's a spike setter, a screen setter. I've seen people do like stored power sets with like cosmic power and stuff on it before. You know, you get slow teleport out.
The fact that it gets cosmic power still is disgusting.
With recover.
It's gross. It's absolutely gross. Yeah, and if you don't get this thing poisoned or something like that within the first like couple turns, you might as well just kiss the game goodbye, because this thing's just gonna sit and never go down. Yeah, no, absolutely gross pick. This team is shaping up to be incredibly bulky. And I mean, yeah, that's it. You switch into Volcarona, burn something. What are you doing now? You know, Palkia is fat. Blissey can now probably take a hit. Dio can definitely take a hit. Yeah, this team is shaping up to be pretty bulky and pretty hard to take down. And then Tera Armarouge rounding out round 4. This Armarouge loves Tera. Armarouge loves it. The fire psychic typing offensively is great. Defensively leaves a little bit to be desired. But then when you go like Tera Grass on this thing, yeah, good luck. Plus, of course, its ability to just, you know, start going a lot faster is great, because its problem is its speed. But then you just start boosting up and going nuts. Its signature move does a lot of damage, and can also lead to jetpack sets, which is cool. But yeah, Tera Armarouge, I like that. I think that's a really cool pick.
Yeah, the prepping for this mon, I will say, is like impossible. You know, it's like you get a weak armor set up, yeah, sure, but it's like, but what's the Tera going to be? What do I prep for there? It's like it could be Flash Fire as well with like Tera Grass or whatever. Like, I've seen it work under Trick Room before, so like there's a lot of different mind games that go on with this mon. I think it's very, very good as a Tera captain.
I think so too. I think it's going to be really hard to prep for. And yeah, normally you would just beat this with like, oh, I'm just going to Shadow Sneak, or oh, I'm just going to Sucker Punch.
Right.
Not if it's a different type. It just,
yeah,
it's going to be really strong. So that is it for round 4. A lot more Tera captains going this round. Definitely a nice shift in that. What do you think is your big winner of this round?
Man, there's
a lot. There are a lot. Yeah.
Know? I talked about like Tera Dirge being amazing. I think like a lot of the Tera captains just make a lot of sense. I think Tinted Lens first impression low kicks with like Tera Bug is just gonna absolutely nuke people into oblivion. But I really like the Hawlucha pick as well from Ruppy. I think those 3, the low kicks, the Dirge, and the Hawlucha are probably my big winners.
And Manaphy, I'm missing the symbol on Manaphy, but yeah, that is also, oh boy, yeah, really gross round 4. All of the coaches went nuts. So let's jump into round 5. Gliscor round 5. Yeah. When's the last time Gliscor went round 5?
Probably never, to be honest.
I don't know that I've ever seen Gliscor go round 5. Super late, but it's Gliscor, right? This thing is super strong. Of course, it just sits on the field and just lives forever. This could have been a Tera captain, and I honestly was shocked to see it not be a Tera captain. Right. Just because obviously Tera Water works really well on the defensive side. You can run Tera normal with like Swords Dance for facade sets. There's a lot of stuff that way, but I mean, you can still run that even without Terra Normal. So there's plenty of good stuff that you can do with this set.
Yeah, and I think that this team really offsets the ice type weakness really well too. So it's like,
too.
you know, Gliscor doesn't even need access to Roost anymore. Like for like you just sit with a Toxic Orb and protect, and that's like a quarter of your HP back every like other turn. So it's like,
Yeah.
I think that it makes a lot of sense for this team, and I think it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I brought an ice type, but it's like, okay, I have a Quaquaval and a Magearna
Yeah,
and an Armarouge. Like, what do I care? You know, so
Yeah.
it works. So I think that's going to be just fine. Scizor, round 5. Scizor's good. It is double bug on here. But obviously Volcarona is not 4 times weak to fire, it's just 2 times weak. But you've also got a 4 times resistance with Palkia. So
yeah, Scizor's just good. You know, it's like you get some nice priority and some good knockoff pressure with it for the rest of your team. CC is really strong. Also a defogger too, so you can help get rid of, you know, some of the rocks and stuff that might pressure you. So I like Scizor a lot. I think Scizor as a Terra captain would have been absolutely crazy.
It would have.
but
yeah.
But I think it's an okay pick here. I like it, and it's physically bulky, adding more bulk.
Yeah, it's another Pokemon, which is going to be insanely gross to try to take down for sure. Yeah, definitely going to be a tough team to deal with here. All right, Kilowattrel for me. I know Kilowattrel is normally a lot better with Terra, but 1, I thought Low Kicks was better. But 2, I think Kilowattrel can really function well on this squad. It gives me some much needed speed, because as you can see, my team is very slow as of right now. Gives me a pivot option, gives me an electric immunity possibly, or an anti-defog / whatever else, anti-intimidate on. So I think that there's a lot here. It gives me a ground immunity as well for a couple of mons that I have that are weak. So I think it fits well. And again, this is another LTM returner for me.
Yeah, really, really strong. I like it a lot.
So I like it. And plus, just I love its design too. We got Zapdos at home. I think it's cool.
For sure.
Very, very fun. All right, there it is.
There it is.
There it is. Finally, round 5. We finally got it. I think we all saw this one coming. I don't think anybody is shocked by this. Yeah, obviously this over Ninetales is going to be better any day. Gives you a spinner, which you already had a defogger, which is good. So you've got some options for removal there. But it's pretty bulky. Gets rapid spin. Gets lava plume to possibly burn. Gets solar beam to use in the sun. But the main thing here, of course, is to set the sun. So not a whole lot to report on Torkoal. Everybody kind of knows what Torkoal is and does, but obviously it's an essential member of the Turtle Club Torkoals, right?
For sure.
All right. Okay. You're gonna have to tell the people about the Regieleki pick. Obviously this was Terra banned.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's the Eleki pick for?
I mean, just fast electric spam is just good, right? And, you know, as I was kind of looking, you know, it's like I waited a bit too long to get a spinner. All the Dawn fan line is gone. A lot of really good other spinners have been taken. So I was trying to think of, you know, something that helps my team a lot. And I think that Eleki does that, you know, fast screens to set too. You know, we could potentially do some electric terrain stuff for my 2 Cork Drive mons. That's really cool. But the biggest reason I felt was, you know, Eleki forces people to bring their ground types, you know, to stop that electric spam, which Qian Pao really, really likes. So I think that it was a pretty good fit. I go back and forth on whether or not Eleki is something I like to use a lot, but I think that it fits the mold pretty well here.
Yeah, it's a weird mon for sure. I think that there are times when it's perfect for what you need, but there are also times when it's like I don't know what I'm supposed to do, because it's just all I have is electric moves. That's I got that, and I got Swift. That's what I got. So yeah, that it definitely can be a little tough in that way, but I mean, it's still a super nice mon, and I think honestly for its utility, it works really well on this team. I don't think it needs to be the offensive threat that it has to be on some other teams.
Right.
I think that it does. I think it's going to do better as a utility mon here, and I think that's going to make it a lot harder to deal with for sure.
Definitely.
All right. Oh boy. And then
I've seen this before. I feel
we get one of the Grum specials. Yeah, Volcanion. Grum loves this mon. If I don't think it's Grum's favorite Pokemon, but it might as well be. This Grum has made this thing look broken. I was never the biggest fan of Volcanion. Like it's good. The typing's cool. Getting a water immunity is good. All of that good stuff. But I don't know. I never thought it was all that great. And then I faced Grum with it.
Yeah.
And he wrecked my life. So
yeah. Volcanion's just like, man, it does some really good things. And Grum is a very creative team builder and has found ways to use it in multiple different settings too. You know, I don't think anyone's surprised to see it on this team, that's for sure. But you know what? If anyone's going to make Volcanion work at its peak potential, I think it's going to be Grum. So
it is. All I'm saying is, if we also see the Pogworm later, we'll have to riot. Okay, everybody has to riot if we see the Pogworm later. But we'll see a little bit. But Sandy Shocks next. I think this. I have not gotten to take Sandy Shocks yet, but I think this mod is cool.
Yeah, you know, fast pivot, good, like electric ground stab is really strong.
Really good typing,
if you want to do that. It's also a screen setter and like some really good pivot. So it's a really good enabler, I feel, for the rest of the team. Really good lead, kind of does like a few different things that you needed to do. So yeah, I like the pick a lot. I've never used it personally. I've never gotten a chance to, but I like what it's doing here.
Yeah, I think it's really good here. Of course, it's a spiker as well, which really helps. I think this makes a really good spikes lead, or even just try to get them up in the mid game. And it's faster than you would think it is too. You're used to seeing Magneton and Magnezone being somewhat slow, but this thing's pretty quick. So definitely helps out, since you know his speed tiers are a little limited outside of Weavile, and so that kind of helps out, because you've got Weavile being pretty fast, then you've got Urshifu at, I believe, like 97. And then of course this helps to fill that gap a little bit, which is really nice. So I like that. Arcanine. What do we think about Arcanine on this squad?
I see still a lot of rock weakness. Is what I'm seeing.
It's very weak to rock.
You know, I don't mind it though. I think Arcanine, you know, has been kind of a victim of some power creep over the last few generations. It's become a little less appealing, but it's still really solid. You know, I've seen a lot of like Curse Extreme speed sets with like Morning Sun, which is really cool. It's a fast like Will-O-Wisp user. So I think that Arcanine, you know, fits a couple of roles pretty nicely. I just would really like to see him pick up something that resists rocks or helps him out with that.
Yeah, I think so too, because we have no removal, right? We have no, we have nothing so far. And a lot of times it is a bit unfortunate that Arcanine has been very much overshadowed by the Hisuian counterpart, just because a lot of people like the ability to just click button and something goes down. Whereas Arcanine has a little bit more nuance to it. So I don't know. I think that there's a little bit of potential here, but we definitely need some help with the rock weakness, because otherwise we're gonna be in a pretty rough spot. So we'll see what the Bundle Montreal do going forward. I don't know why I allowed this.
That's a good question.
This is this is gonna be a dangerous Pokemon. Very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I thought about Terra Iron Hands as well. I have the counterpart in the Hariyama, but man, this thing is another mon that just like never dies in one hit.
It never dies.
Anything. So, and like good coverage, Drain Punch, great AV mon, and now with Terra, like nasty, really
this
good.
Thing's gonna be gross, absolutely gross. I am not looking forward to the potential of facing this. It's very strong. It's very strong. And a bunch of different Terras will work on it. Terra Water, Terra Fairy. You can even just go straight Terra Electric. It just there's a lot that works well on it. So good luck prepping for it. It's got a base like 147 or something attack.
Yeah, it's like,
big. it's really high. So yeah, this is going to be an absolute menace to try to go up against. Speaking of fighting type Terra captains,
this one's a fun one. I like Hisuian Decidueye. It's just like it suffers from being slow you
It's
know.
so slow.
So, but being able to Terra and, give it a little bit more versatility there, I think is really cool. Triple arrows is a really, really cool move.
That
It's
move is
another
broken
defogger.
strong. That move is insane. Triple arrows is great.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I like not expected this to go in round 5. Like I'm not surprised. But I think it's cool. I'm excited to see how he makes use of it.
Yeah, for sure. I like this mon only as a Terra captain. If it's not a Terra captain, I think it's bad. But if you do have it as a captain, then I think that there is potential there for sure. But Terra Steel works on this. Terra Fighting works on this well. Terra Water I've seen do okay. Fairy, like it does again. This benefits a lot from the open Terra format in helping you to shake things up. And so I think there's potential there. I probably would like to see some Trick Room options though for this.
True.
Just to help out with that speed. Yes, it gets Trailblaze, but it's going to need at least 2 of them to get past anything that's of a decent speed. So that may not be a luxury that you can always afford. So definitely would like to see some Trick Room here as we go forward. Then we get Terra Lapras. I am a fan of this pick.
I think it's cool. Like both these last 2 picks have been like really interesting. I think with Water Absorb, Lapras can do some cool stuff. Pretty good bulky pivot mon. Can also do like some fun loaded dice Dragon Dance sets. Maybe that's something Golden Guy kind of leans into. But yeah, I think that Lapras is really cool. Maybe some Whirlpool Perish trapping stuff going on. That would be really cool.
Please don't give him ideas for week 1.
Sorry. But, I like Lapras. I think that this is a very interesting pick for sure.
I think that Terra Fire Lapras is absolutely gross. Just because then you can deal with those steals that normally would be able to switch in on you. But you can even go Terra Electric on this thing too for Bolt Beam. But yeah, you can go with a physical set. It can work on special side as well. Physical's a little better just because of Dragon Dance, but or it can just sit there with Shell Armor and not be crit. So sure. I mean, there are options here, and so I really think that Lapras is a good pick, and it works well here, I think, as well, because I think a lot of people are going to over prep for Thundy, and so you just don't bring Thundy that 1 week, and then everybody's like, wait a minute, don't bring Terra Electric, bring Terra Fire or something, and you're all prepped for that, and then now you're stuck. I think that can be a really good mix up if you bring it at the right moment.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Tentacruel. I'm a believer in Tentacruel. Good spinner. It's fast. It's a lot faster than you think.
Grounded poison type, I think Tentacruel kind of does what it needs to do. It's pretty bulky on the special side. Good pivot with flip turn. Like, if you want to go real crazy 1 week, you bring Swords Dance and really throw people off.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Acupressure.
I think it gets knockoff too. So I like Tentacruel. I think it's a really good role player for sure.
Yeah, we do not ban acupressure in UNPL, and we have seen it have some moderate success with that if you get the right boost at the right time. Definitely an interesting mon, but yeah, very strong. I think this mon is going to be a really good pick because it can be offensive or defensive, and it'll work. It'll work both ways. So I like that a lot. Next up, we got some webs.
Yeah, web support for some of your slower mon. Like for Rillaboom, it's like obviously you want to be clicking Grassy Glide, but it's like, what if I just set up webs and let my Rillaboom start clicking Woodhammer instead, or let my Primarina with Choice Specs start clicking Moonblast and Surfs instead. So
exactly, and that's the incredible part of it is and you even look at it from an opposing web standpoint too, is if you both end up setting webs, right? Like your 2 mons that really benefit, that would really hurt from it the most, have Clear Body and are off the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, so they don't even care. So it just this helps to keep all of that even. And I really, really like the Galvantula pickup here. I think it's great. Gives another pivot option. Really good stuff. And you get to run Thunder on this over the Thunderbolt just because of the compound eyes. So definitely a cool pick, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, the Thick Onion is here.
Another good spinner.
Good spinner.
Like Serena just kind of does what it needs to do. I feel like I've said that about a few mons lately, but it's a good role player. Good assault fast mon, pretty bulky. Spinner, Baldy, calm down. You're fine. you know, gets Axle, high jump kick, like also gets synthesis for a little bit of healing. You can drop kick some of the physical attackers, kind of lower that physical attack. You know, and Queenly Majesty is good too. You know, you get around some of those priority options and some of those things as well. So I like Serena. I think it's a really good budget spinner, and I think it fits pretty well on this team for sure.
Yeah. I was eyeing this on my team a little bit as well, for, you know, just more so because of the spinner, not so much the reasons that Baldy is going through. But yeah, I think it does well. Obviously, it suffers from just being a pure grass type and all the weaknesses that come with that. And it's not the fastest thing out there. It's kind of mid on the speed. So in that way, it can be a little tough. So if there's any, you know, weakness I would see on this team so far, is just kind of hazard removal would be a thing. But you know, if Serena can get in and do its job, then that's great. But you know, I don't know that Serena is going to be a pick every week, though.
Yeah.
Just because look at those top four.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's kind of the tough thing about this team, is when you have so much power on that top end, and then you start looking at your utility stuff after that. You either have to leave one of those powerhouses on the bench, or you have to leave your utility, and then you get stuck with rocks or spikes or whatever it happens to be. And you know, Dialga can't run boots, so spikes are gonna ruin its day. So that's gonna be something to watch out for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Hatterene. We didn't have a spinner yet, but we're still gonna make you fear setting anything up.
Yeah, this team definitely now with the hat seems to trend more towards like a trick room strategy, I would say. And the magic bounce definitely helps. You know, it's like if I want to cripple that Annihilate with like a Thunder Wave or Will-O-Wisp or anything, it's like I just switch in my Hatterene and I don't have to worry about that. So
bounce it right back, and then put the Blood Moon in trick room. Oh boy.
Yeah, good screen setter. Nuzzle's really good to paralyze things. Also gets Healing Wish, good fairy type.
And Hatterene can just sweep on its own.
Yeah, it's good. You can just set trick room and go to town.
I've had it before. I set trick room and just went nuts, and it'll be a one-person show as well. So I think it's a really, really solid pick for this. And you know, we were talking about how slow the team is. This now justifies it. So I think that's a really, really good pick up there. And last pick of round 5 is Cinderace. Round five.
Round 5 Cinderace. Like Baldy's just building a very solid team with lots of threats. And you know, it's like protein with your high jump kicks, your pyro balls and everything. As long as you hit them, you know, you get fast U-turn, you get a lot of things out of Cinderace that I really like with this roster. So I can't complain at all.
No, I think it's great. I think having the fire typing is really good for this squad. Helps out a little, gives you a secondary way to deal with the steals that may want to come in on Necrozma. And so I think that's great. It gives you another pivot mon, because this is your second one. So it's nice to have another option in that way. But yeah, and of course high jump kick, just to break things in half, which is great. Hopefully not your own legs, but yeah, really, really solid. So that is all for round 5. Who do you think now that we're kind of getting into the middle of this draft? Who do you think's the biggest winner here of this round?
I mean, obviously you look at Torkoal and how much it enables, you know, over there. I think that's really good. But I think Tera Iron Hands obviously makes a really strong argument for being like probably the best of the bunch. I just think that like there's so many different routes and so many different threats that you got to worry about with hands. So I would say that's the big winner for me.
Yeah, no, I have to agree on that. Tera Hands is gross. Again, that was one of the ones I was on the fence on whether or not to allow it, and it ended up being allowed. So I'm you know, Jeremy has always been solid in all of our stuff, and so you know, obviously he won his division in Academy, and now he's done really well in Fall Brawl, and he's done all these other things. So I'm pumped to see what he comes up with this. So really, really cool stuff. So let's jump into round 6. We are halfway through the required picks. So we've got Dragonite going now, round 6.
Yeah, man, I like Dragonite's, I feel, one of those mons that some people kind of overlook it because of, again, like power creep is just such a real thing in this generation. But like you forget that Dragonite just does everything that it wants to do. And if you click Dragon Dance one time, like, you might just be in trouble, and Dragonite can just win games. Bandit E-Speed's really good. You could even run support. You could run special. So on this team, I think it's really, really good. Without the Tera on the Thundy, we're a little bit weak to Ice, but I think the Tinkaton and the Cinderace kind of offset that pretty well.
Yeah, I don't mind it so much. Obviously, this was Tera banned. There's no way this was going to be allowed to Tera.
Right.
But yeah, I think that Dragonite is kind of in a weird spot. I know that some people really love it. I think some people think it's on fraud watch. I personally think that it's pretty good. I think it's nice. I've drafted it before. I even ran like a Spadef set on it before, and that did work, which was really nice. More of a support set. So yeah, I definitely think that this Mon has decent potential, and on this squad, I think it's going to work really well. So definitely looking forward to what Baldy does with that. And yeah, we talked about the other Arcanine earlier. Now we've got Tera, Hisuian Arcanine.
Yeah.
This is going to be disgusting. This is gross. Yeah, Tera Rock. I mean, Tera Rock rocks a head smash. Do I need to even think about it?
Yeah. And it's like, oh, my opponent has a steel type. I'll just click Flare Blades instead.
It's like, I don't care. I don't care, right? You get in Trick Room. You just run this kind of slow. You run Banded. Good luck. Good luck switching into this. It does. There aren't good switch-ins. This is going to be gross. It also gets access, of course, to Extreme Speed if it wants to. So you could always run Tera Normal Extreme Speed to do things like that. And of course, the worst thing about it is its typing.
Right. So being able to change it is just that much better.
Getting rid of that awful typing, this thing's all set. So yeah, definitely cool. Of course, it also gets like Flame Charge for those kind of sets too. So you don't have to run Choice if you don't want to. Yeah, this thing gets all the tools it needs, and it being Tera just pushes it over the edge for me. It's fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic pick.
Very good.
And there we have this is a very yeah, good old VGC king here. Incineroar. Definitely not as good in singles, but certainly still cannot be slept on.
Yeah, I'm an Incin believer in singles. I think that it's underrated in singles. You know, it's like you still get your Intimidate. Fire Dark is a really good typing. You get Stab Knockoff. You get U-Turn or Parting Shot. Like, you could just go Banded Flare Blitz if you want. You get SD, Bulk Up. I'm pretty sure it even gets Trailblaze, which is crazy too. So I think that Incin's got a lot of different ways that it can go, and I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, anybody who says that Incineroar is bad, I think you're just wrong. It's and again, this is a deceptively bulky Mon. And you could look to VGC for this, right? There's a reason why this thing is so good in VGC, because it just lives stuff. And it's great. It's great. It gets really all the tools it could ever want. So to me, it's an absolutely fantastic pick.
Yeah.
And you can see we've now completed that Firewater Grass core in back-to-back picks there. And so we've also in the first two picks filled out the Fairy Steel Dragon core as well. So definitely got a lot of really good typing synergy here. Again, I would say that removal might still be a bit of a weakness here, but besides that, I think this team's looking really solid.
Yeah, for sure.
Salazzle. Now this is a Mon that also gets overlooked a lot.
I think you like the speed tier and the fire poison typing is like, obviously ground is not something you appreciate, but kind of like Iron Moth, obviously it's like you get Sludge Bomb, Flamethrower, Stab, like that hits deceptively hard. And you know, Salazzle, if anyone plays random battles on Showdown, you know how annoying
this thing is, gross.
Just a protect sub toxic set can be. So I think it's a cool pick for this team, and the grassy terrain helps out the ground weakness as
well. That's what I was also going to say is unless you're hitting it with Earth Power, you know, this thing is definitely going to be at least a little bit better at taking those hits. You know, obviously it's not super bulky, but really that's not what it's there for. And there's also, of course, the random week that you bring Corrosion, right? You bring the Corrosion and you toxic that Steel type that wants to possibly come in or anything like that. This also gives Toxic Spikes, which is cool. And I think that's a really, really nice thing there too, to chip things down, break any potential sashes, so you don't have to worry about Hawlucha having to take a hit in the late game. So I think that's really nice as well. Umbreon, this is one that I've been seeing Umbreon not get picked up a lot here recently.
Yeah, I've been watching Crep a little bit in BBRD League, and I think she had it on the team there too. And like, it's an Umbreon, right? It's gonna do what it needs to do.
That's what I believe in Umbreon. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, you get your foul play, you got your toxic, wish support. There's a few other things that Umbreon can do too that are a little more niche, but so I think creativity plays a little bit of a role in Umbreon. Most of the time, you know what you're gonna get with it, but very solid indeed.
Yeah, I mean, just as a wish passer in general, it's fantastic. And yeah, like we talk about the problem with certain mons being super predictable. Honestly, I don't know if it's that big a deal on Umbreon.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because if you're that good at it, I don't know if it's that big of a deal. Obviously, having Tera on it would have been really cool because it appreciates being like Tera Poison or Tera Fairy. But, when you've got Tera Iron Crown, I don't think you can really complain all that much.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Klefki, again, just really good support stuff now for those. But we still don't have a hard hitter like what we were talking about earlier. But maybe it won't matter if you just out-survive everything with having some easy screens.
Yeah, just fantastic utility overall on the team. Now you got screen support, you got some more spikes, and the prankster support is just really good. So like you said, getting a heavy hitter or two late in the draft here, I think would benefit this team a lot. But overall, real solid utility. And
again, Golden has not gotten an Uber yet. So there is still potential there to grab one of the Ubers that's still around and really make use of that, which is cool. And I will say that also Klefki is one of those mons that you can have that pocket stored power set too.
Yeah.
And that can be wild if you're not ready for it. You bring in something that's meant to like defog on this thing and it starts setting Calm Minds up on you, and all of a sudden you are not able to handle it. It's definitely something that can be a threat if you're not ready for it. All right, another Tera captain for Arts with Jolteon. Great pick.
Tera Jolteon, fantastic. I'm on that normally suffers from having a little bit more of a limited move pool. Now gets access to a stab that it wants. Base 130 speed and like some good speed to add to Greninja especially already. So I like this pick a lot.
I do too. I will say, really funny story about Grace Period with Arts. Originally, Arts had something much higher tier in his last pick, which is no longer here. But also, Arts just didn't have any Tera captains going into Grace Period, and had to make some changes. But originally this didn't have Tera. But I was talking to them. I was like, I think you really need Tera on some things. Like we really got to work this out, my guy. And I think he made some really good moves to make the most of it. So this is a really good pickup there as well. Pheasantipity, I mean, this thing's great. This thing is a really good roll compressor, I think. It does what you need. It's grounded poison, it's a fairy, and it's a pivot option. It can poison things with Toxic Chain, or you can run like Swords Dance with Technician. There's a lot of stuff. Obviously the beat up set is everywhere, but there's a lot of other sets that work on this well as well. I've drafted it before. I think it's a great mon for sure. Very specially bulky as well. So I'm a believer in Fez.
Yeah, good AV mon, lots of good versatility, good pivot as well, and adding more natural bulk to the team never hurts too.
No, I like it, and we didn't have a fairy or a grounded poison yet, so I think as far as compressing that into one, really helps out here a lot. Okay, I've had this conversation with TJP before, and TJP swears up and down that Alchemy is like so busted. With Tera. So much so that I think when we started the Fall Brawl, he took Milcery and then realized that Milcery gets like no moves.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Alchemy is all that it's cracked up to be, even with Tera. Just because, again, this is something that has to set up a lot in order for it to work. Obviously Tera works on it, but I mean you're pure fairy, so I mean your typing is not bad. your typing's not bad at all. And again, we don't have any way to deal with our rock weakness.
Yeah, yeah, this one's a little bit of a head scratcher for me, but like I said before, I'm more than willing to be proven wrong. So I sincerely hope that Terra Alchemy is way better than we think. But
I don't know. I am not a huge believer in alchemy. Like I said, now listen, there are sets out there. There's the Iron Defense Calm mindset that can sit there for a long time if you do it that way, and then then you store power and all that stuff. But ultimately, I still think that you just bring one Haze Mon and this Mon's done.
yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? You bring Haze or you poison it if it's not Terra, Poison, or Steel, and then it's gonna be sad. So like I don't think it's all that good. Maybe TJP will prove us wrong. I don't know, but I personally don't think it's as good. Like this thing, I think we set this thing at like 3 points or something like that. Like it's I just don't think it's as good, and definitely I think it's very early at round 6 to be taking it. But that's just me. Another fairy though. We're taking a lot of fairies here with Galarian Wheezing. I think this is a great mon. I have used this before, can confirm it's great. It of course gets 3 amazing abilities. One of them you're probably not going to bring all that much, but still, levitate and the neutralizing gas, fantastic. It gets a lot of great utility. The typing's great. I like this mon a lot.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think that Weezing kind of, is always a reliable check. Strange Steam is really good. It's a toxic spike setter. You can make it a ground and poison type if you want, if you're not running Levitate. So I like Weezing. I think it's really cool.
I do think that given this team, I think he's going to be forced into using Levitate a lot, just because you've got several things that are weak to ground. Obviously, Dirge will drop that weakness potentially with Terra, but still, you've got Shocks and Solgaleo as well. So I think it's going to get forced into Levitate a lot, and so it may feel a little stifled in that way, where Gas may have helped it out in other ways. But still, I still think it's a great mon overall.
Yeah, for sure.
Why did this happen? Why? So yeah, we've got Pogdog and Pogworm for Grum. Oh,
yeah,
this is just gross.
I think, and to no one's surprise too, I'm sure. Orthworm's cool. Bulky Earth Eater is fantastic. Great, reliable spike setter. Gets a lot of cool stuff that the worm could do. So I'm excited to see what Grum does with it this season.
Yeah, it's strong one, and of course it's a Terra captain as well. So I mean, Terra just plain Steel is great for it already, right? But it of course now could be Terra fighting for possible bonuses to body press, which could be really good. I'm not sure what else he'll come up with. I'm sure Grum will come up with some crazy creative stuff and make it really make something really special. But yeah, Orthworm, again, one of those mons that gets slept on in a lot of leagues, but I think it's got potential. I think it can do work. So I think it's cool. I think it's a cool pick. And who else would take it than Grum? But yeah. You wanna tell me about round 6 Clefable? First of all, round 6.
Yeah, absolutely wild that nobody took this thing like early on.
It's Clefable. Like, what are we?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's still sitting on the board. I almost felt obligated, to do people a favor and make sure that somebody drafts it. But unaware, fantastic ability. Great deep move pool, good rock setter, good knockoff user. You get Moonlight, all the coverage in the world. You could run Cosmic Power sets. Like, Clef is just, it's gonna be good. You can get Magic Card to get around like hazards and toxic sets and that sort of thing. And like you said, the fact that this is a round 6 pick is actually nuts.
It's super late. Super late.
I think it's really good. I'm really excited to have it.
Yeah, I think again, it's just as a fairy, I think it's great. As a support mon, it's great. And it gets everything it needs to. You got to bring Metronome at least once, but yeah, it gets everything it needs to. So I think it's a great pick, especially at round 6. It's super late.
No kidding.
Really cool. All right, round 6 Ditto.
Another Uber.
Another potential Uber here. Now, if any of y'all have been watching our boy Kyle A in his run in BBL, you will see that I think Kyle has made the biggest stride in making Ditto look broken. Like, ever. I don't know that I've ever seen Ditto put in nearly as much work as what I've seen with Kyle, and Kyle hasn't run Scarf a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, Ditto's like always the threat for like, can I really set up in front of this team, or like, can I really do what I need to do with it? Ditto is always in the back.
Because I remember again talking about Kyle, like there was one week, I think it's when he was facing it's just started setting up on him like crazy, and Ditto's sitting in the back, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, why are we setting up with, like, it was like a Necrozma or something, setting up all this stuff, and he had not brought choiced Ditto that week, and the only reason Ditto didn't 6-0 sweep him off of the first turn was because he got crit. And I mean, like, it just, I think that kind of stuff is crazy. And so it really proves to me that in draft, the paranoia of, oh, it's gonna be scarfed, really trumps out the need to have to bring that every week.
Yeah, exactly.
And so to me, I think that if you really, but to me, I think it also takes a lot more prep on the coach to think, okay, I have to bring this in on this specific mon. It's going to work in this specific situation. And so it takes a little more thought than just max HP, throw a scarf on it, go nuts. You know what I mean? So to me, I think that's really the key there. But I mean, at the same time, you could run Scarf and then throw this in on a Dialga Origin, right? Or throw this in on Palkia Origin, one of those mons that is locked into an item, and now you are something different, or you could even have leftovers or something else on that. I think that's really where this could be unlocked as something really cool. So yeah, really cool pick. I think that there's a lot of potential here with Ditto, so really cool stuff. Okay, Chi-Yu for me. I have been clowning on Chi-Yu for a while, and I don't know if I believe my own line here that the Chi-Yu was worth it, but I think Chi-Yu is nice because I needed a fire type for one. Yes, I'm doubling up on on dark types, but you know, it is what it is on that. But it's a really strong special attacker. I have the ability to go a little bit faster with the flame charge. Of course, it's not as frail as what it looks. It looks super frail, but it's not terribly frail. I think that we can make this work. And of course, round 6, Chi-Yu is super late, super late. Yeah,
just click an overheat like is sometimes good enough for Chi-Yu to be viable. So I think it plays a really cool role on your team, and I think that it's a threat and a half, obviously.
Yeah,
so.
I like it a lot. I think it's cool. Definitely have got to run the was it the room service set on it once, where room service, the one where you lower stats and you switch out, run overheat, pivot out, and do that thing. So I think there's some potential there for sure. I've got some stuff cooking up for Chi-Yu specifically to try to hopefully make it a little bit more broken, but we'll just have to see from there. And then we got Mimikyu from +1.
Yeah, really cool fairy type for the team, I think. You know, having access to disguise is also really cool. Mimikyu kind of can do a few different things. You know, it's like decently fast. You get things like Will-O-Wisp. I think also can set Trick Room and stuff. So honestly, like, you get some priority with Shadow Sneak in combination with Bullet Punch from the Scizor now. So I like it. I like that we're adding more physical threats in with the Scizor and the Mimikyu. And, you know, I think that, you know, you're always guessing what the Mimikyu can do. So I think it's a cool pick.
Yeah, to me, I think it serves two very important roles on this. One, of course, gives you a fighting immunity to help Blissey. But two, because the team is so fat in a lot of ways, this can give you a really free red card user.
Sure.
And so if somebody tries to come in and start setting up on your Deoxys or start setting up on your Blissey or something, you go into this and you're like, okay, go for it, hit me. And then you just lose all your boosts. So to me, I think that role of utility and support is really what's going to make a big difference. And I think that can really push this team a little bit further into not getting taken advantage of by something like that. So yeah, I think it's a good pick here for sure. All right, Lycanroc Dusk as the last pick of round 6.
Claws.
Yeah, this mon's strong. It is.
You know, like Tough Claws boosted close combats and stuff. You also get Priority Excel Rock. It's a great like suicide lead to set your Stealth Rocks. Gets Endeavor and stuff. You know, I like Lycanroc's always going to be a threat. You know, and the speed tier is really, really good for something in this format. And you know, I think it's a mon that people might underrate at times. I think that it's really, really good here.
I think something that gets underrated a lot in draft is just offensive rock types, right? Because we get a lot of people who put Iron Boulder on Fraud Watch, right? If it's not Tera. I think obviously Terrakion has been on Fraud Watch. And so a lot of people will have teams that are weak to rock and be like, oh, the only thing I'm going to worry about is stealth rocks, right? So I'll just spin those away and I'm fine. But then you have things like Lycanroc that's like, no, I'm just going to run through your team because I'm hitting you with Stone Edges or Rock Slides or Accelerox or whatever. And so I think it fills a really cool niche in draft that not a lot of other mons can do.
Yeah, for sure. I wholeheartedly agree.
So I like that a lot. And that is going to wrap up round 6. What do we think? Who's the big winner around 6?
You know, I'm gonna be a little selfish and say it's me.
I mean, yeah.
You know, I think that round 6, like prime time fairy type with Unaware, is just like really, really good.
It is.
And to get it in round 6 as well. I think Ditto presents a lot of interesting team prep and stuff to get around. The Terra Arcanine is also like Dragonite as well, also really, really strong. So
I've got to go with Arcanine personally. I think that is super strong here. And I think round 5 is the perfect time to take that because I don't know that would have lasted much longer. And especially being able to have it with Terra, really, really good pick up there. So really, really good. Round 7, we're starting off with Sinistra.
Yeah,
listen,
Sinistra's so good. You know?
I like Sinistra. I like its design. However, I do think that it has been underperforming recently without Terra. With Terra, this thing is nuts.
Yeah,
absolutely nuts. Without Terra, I haven't been seeing it do as well. But again, Calm Mind, Matcha Gotcha, where you just heal and you burn and you do all the things. It's certainly not bad at all.
Yeah, Emerald said all these nasty setup mines. I totally agree. And it's like if you're calm minding and then you also add strength sap into the equation, it's like, well, now how do I kill the Sinistra?
Well, that's true. Every mon on Zan's team gets either Swords Dance or Calm Mind, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Yeah. So no, it's cool. I like you said, it might suffer a little bit without Terra, but I think that it still, you know, plays a pretty responsible role, I think, on this team, and I'm stoked to see how it does.
Yeah. No, it certainly has its place. I think the big thing is just making sure you position it right so that it can take advantage of everything, and making sure that you're not going to eat a knockoff so that you can properly be in on a fire move to take advantage of your heat proof. Yeah, but yeah, I think if you pivot it right, I think that it can definitely be an okay mon for sure. Terra Zoroark for +1.
Now,
this is a tough one for me.
Yeah, I have conflicting feelings about this too, because it's like Zoroark's biggest strength is its illusion, right? So, you know, but now you stick a Terra hat on top of it and you kind of
lose the ability.
Your ability to do that. So
my counterpoint to that, and this was kind of +1's option, is seeing it as more of a Z move.
Okay.
And so it is, you don't just Terra as soon as it comes out. You try to save your illusion for later, and then you have it as the, you know, you've got one of your mons, and say you've got it disguised as Volcarona, right? And then they bring in a water type, and you pop Terra Grass, and something like that. And so I think that could be the interesting thing of, you don't know that this is the Terra Captain.
Sure.
Now, obviously, that trick only works once. But if that trick is used to remove, say, the Uber,
and it's worth it.
I would very much trade a Zoroark for an Uber, right? So to me, I can see it, right? And that's really where where it is, but it also puts a lot of pressure on +1 to make sure to maintain that illusion. Because if you give away that, you know, Volgrown is no longer at full HP, and then you go into this, and that illusion is no longer working, then, you know, it is open Tera, and that's where this could actually go against it, because now you know that Zoroark is Tera Grass prior to the game starting. So in that way, this would be better having the 3 Tera types, right? So it's one of those things that I think is kind of tough. Definitely requires a lot more specific positioning, but I think if you play it that way and don't just Tera willy-nilly, I think there might be some potential here.
Yeah, sure. Good points.
So yeah, I think you have to look at it on a Z move instance for that. But oh, TJP, great, you're here for us to talk about how amazing your team is. But yeah, I think Zoroark is interesting, and I think can work, but it definitely has to be played differently from, you know, something like Tera Iron Hands, where it's you come in and you just immediately Tera.
Sure.
I think it just has to be played with a little more finesse that way. All right, so here's the giveaway here. We're going Snow. Again, this is a repeat mon for me from last season of Unpl. But Snow with Kyurem. Kyurem's bulky. This makes it even worse. This gives me screens. That helps out with low kicks as well. Helps out with Chi-Yu. I think that overall, thanks Horizon. What's up? I think it's a cool pick. I like it for my team.
Yeah, I think it just enables like a lot of stuff for you, right? The screens are really important. The defense boost on Kyurem, you know, Kilowattrel getting some ice type moves with some weather ball stuff. Like, you know, you get a lot of mileage out of it. So I think the pink makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and plus I didn't have a fairy, so I kind of needed that too. And so this fills that out. It also is a nice speed tier for me too, because my team's a little slow. So it helps me to have something that notches in between Chi-Yu and Kilowattrel. So sure. I like that a lot. Mamo on the Sun team.
Yeah, I love Mamoswine. Mamoswine's one of my favorite mons to use in draft.
Mamo's great.
You know, it's like you get thick fat, which definitely helps it out a lot in that regard. Mamoswine and Corviknight are kind of two buddies in that regard. But you know what? You get a good rock setter. You know, you get some priority ice shard. You could run some loaded dice sets with this, with like Icicle Spear. I like Mamoswine a lot. I think it's a really interesting pick for this team. I wouldn't have expected it, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, the team is not particularly weak to fire, right?
Yeah.
While it is definitely a thing that the an opponent could use Weather Ball or some fire move into you, you're not particularly weak to it, right? Because you've got Fluttermane, which really doesn't care. You've got Walking Wake that definitely doesn't care. You've got Torkoal, and then Venusaur tears out of it. So like it's you're really not that weak to fire. So I don't know how much fire coverage is really giving you all that much into this team.
Yeah.
So in that way, I would say that this is probably fine.
Sure.
So cool. And all right, I like the Pert here. I think Pert's a good pick.
I really like Swampert. I think Swampert does a lot more work than people sometimes expect it to do when it's in draft. But it's like it's got like base 100 HP and 90 in both defenses. So it's like it takes hits. Nice. It sets rocks. You know, it gets knockoff. It gets slow flip turn. So it's like, you know, it does really, really good from a support set kind of side of things. But you know, nothing's stopping from just like putting a choice band on it and just clicking Earthquake. Like Groundwater Stab is really, really good. Also gets Roar to like deter some setup stuff.
That's what I was gonna say. Roar is really good on this thing. And I mean, your team, like almost everything on this team already resists grass. So I mean, if somebody wants to bring a grass move just for this, that's a wasted move slot.
Yeah,
you know. So to me, I think that's really, really good and an underrated part of this. So yeah, it is a 4x weakness, but I think it's been well supported.
Yeah, I like the pick a lot. Stoked.
So, yep, very cool. Tera Oricorio.
He gets all 4 Oricorios.
That is right. That is right. Yes. I mean, in fairness, they all function exactly the same. It's just what type do you start out as? But regardless of what you pick, Revelation Dance is going to change into what type you Tera into, which I think is a super cool interaction in that way. One interaction that I thought was interesting is into a I was again more Ranbat talk, playing some Ranbats the other day. Somebody switched in a dancer mon in on Oricorio as I Terra'd, and then I got smacked with my own Revelation Dance that now became super effective because it had now changed type, and the incoming was, I think it was a Gardevoir, and so it was a psychic type or a fairy type Revelation Dance. Just very interesting how Revelation Dance works, and we've never really gotten to explore that until this generation. So I think that's cool, being able to use that and not need to bring Terra Blast. You can just bring your normal move and then go from there. But on top of that, what could be potentially problematic is if you are, let's say, the Bylay form, like what's shown here, if you need that fire coverage and now you've terastallized into something else, you lose it.
Yeah.
And so that could, that makes you have to finesse this one a little bit more on when to Terra. Terraing turn 1 is not always going to be the best option.
For sure.
So, but I think it's going to be good. I think that the Sensu form is going to probably come a lot, just to give a spin blocker initially. But I mean, any of them can make it work for sure, I think. All right, Arboliva. I'm an Arboliva believer. I think it's a good. I think it's a good mon. I think it's much better with Terra, but I still think that it has some potential.
Yeah, it's like you get some cool abilities. You get Seed Sower, you get Harvest. It can just be like annoying to get rid of. You run some sub-seed sets, you get access to Earth Power, like some other moves too. So I like for like round 7, I feel like this is really, really solid.
Yeah, I think so. Round 7 or 8 is normally when I would expect to see something like this. So I think the timing works out. I feel like the normal typing in this case hurts it more than it helps it. Although it does give a nice ghost immunity that there wasn't one prior. And so that helps with like Solgaleo and Dirge prior to Terra. So I definitely can see that being helpful. I'm not sure what the grassy terrain really would help with. Technically, you have 2 terrain setters on this team now. Although, I mean, Weezing is hardly ever going to bring terrain. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Emerald does with this, because I think it's a little bit strange outside of the fact that it just helps to work on that Firewater Grass core. But yeah, we'll just have to see. We'll see what Emerald cooks up. Why is Cyclizar going this late? What is happening?
I was a bit surprised too. Especially
so
with
late.
The league. Like we're allowing Shedtail, right? So it's like
no.
Oh, thank God.
No.
Thank God. Okay, then it makes a little more sense. But at the same time, a Regenerator mon that also spins and can pivot out and stuff, and
it's super fast. Like it's one of the fastest spinners out there, not named Regieleki. And so, like, to me, there's a lot of value there because it has Regenerator. It's really good with like eject pack sets with Draco. I definitely approve of this pick. I think this is cool. We still don't have a resistance to rock, but I still think that this is good. It finally gives removal at least. And so I think it's a good pick. I think it's late though. I feel like it's really late for Cyclizar to be going.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't know. It's late, but it's cool mon. Rotom Heat, it had to go at some point. I mean, you got it. You got it.
Very solid.
Yeah,
like,
great,
honestly.
Great mon. Again, the typing normally would be horrible if you didn't have Levitate. But yeah, with Levitate, this is great. It's absolutely fantastic. It can be offensive, it can be defensive. You've got Will-O-Wisp, you've got Overheat to deal a ton of damage. You've got Volt Switch to pivot. You've got all the tools that it really could want. This mon's great. I don't really have any gripes with it. And I think it fits well on this squad too.
Yeah, the status support and being able to pivot in and out on things, I think, lends itself really well here for sure.
I like that a lot. Sylveon. I'm a Sylveon believer, of course. I got a 6-0 sweep with it a couple seasons ago. Week 1 just went off, so I'm a believer. Is it a little bit one-dimensional when it comes to fairies? Yes. Is it so good at it that it may not matter? Also, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you click your hyper voice with Pixelate. You can wish pass around a little bit. You can do a few other things. You could do Calm Mind. Actually, once upon a time, I was playing against CB Marcus, and he swept me with a Calm Mind Keyberry Sylveon, and like that's always a present threat, So, like you said, it might be good at doing like 1 or 2 things, and it might be a little predictable. But I feel like this is another one of those mons that doesn't care about it too much.
Yeah, I mean, many times you just run max defense, Calm Mind, and then you're just off to the races, and it's great. So I think this mon definitely will do some work there. Dragalge as our dragon here on Golden's team. Again, this is probably what I would say is a strong attacker. Very slow, but does give pivot and adaptability. You got to respect that at least.
Yeah, also gives him a grounded poison type, which is good for like getting around T-spikes and stuff. I like Dragalge a lot. I think that adaptability like allows it to do some deceptive damage even while still being like very defensive. So and the slow flip turn and slow pivot and stuff is really good too. So I like this team, but like we said before, I think we need 1 or 2 heavy hitters to finish it out to make it a really solid roster.
Yeah, because I mean right now a solid steel type, this team's going to be struggling a little bit, right? So we definitely want to look out for that. But still, overall, I think we just need some hard hitters to make sure that you don't get set up on. But I think there's a lot of really good support so far. So cool stuff there. Super late Ursaluna.
Round 7.
Super late.
Round 7 Ursaluna, like on this team too, with like screen support from
it works.
Tail,
it works.
It just works. It's gonna do damage. It's gonna be absolutely nasty.
Yeah, no, this thing is insane. This thing actually could have been a Tera captain as well, which is also wild. But again, I think Crown is the optimal choice. But yeah, I'm a huge believer in Ursaluna. Again, I had that in Unpl Season 3. And it does work. Yeah, it's slow, but it doesn't matter if it just lives the hit and then knocks you out right after with Facade. So obviously it can also then mix things up with Bulletproof sometimes to take those random hits here and there to take 0 damage. So definitely gotta watch out for that. And then for Rigorath, for Ruppy, definitely a unique pick, I think, but I think it works. The Sap Sipper, I think, is a really cool bring here. Obviously, I would have liked to have seen this having Tera, but still not bad. It gives Wish support, which I think is great. I think there's a lot to like with Rigorath.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. I used it in one of my lower tier drafts, and it's surprisingly versatile. It's like you could do Trick Room sets with like Throat Spray and just let this thing kind of click buttons and do damage, or you can like pass around wishes and stuff. Psychic Noise prevents things from healing. So, like you said, a bit of a unique pick. I don't think I would have expected it here, but I still like it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think there's potential here, and Ruppy always builds some really fun stuff. So I think that there's going to be some fun to be had with that one. Enamorous T on this team. Is this the fairy you would have expected on this team?
Probably not. I mean, it's like we already got Valiant here, and we're already we already got Valiant. We already have a genie. So I think Enamorous presents some like really interesting sets and stuff it could do. You get your Iron Defense and Calm Mind sets to really like take over games and stuff. It's really good like slow pivot. Moonblast does a lot of damage. Earth Power does a lot of damage. So I feel like Enamorous T is unexplored in some regards. I don't see it very often. Yeah. But I think it could be really fun.
Yeah, it goes undrafted a lot. I had it back in SSBA back in a while ago, and it did fine. I came very close to sweeping Zenkai with an agility set. So I think it's got some potential, but I think it's unexplored. And I do think that it's a little weird on this team. Obviously there's this thing's weak to electric, while his other Flying type is not. So like, you know, there's not as many shared weaknesses in that way. But having 2 fairies and 2 flying types is a little strange here. But that's just me. Alolan Muck. I like Alolan Muck.
I do too. I like Muck a lot.
I think it's cool. Now, the team is developing a bit of a ground weakness, but I do think that I do think that it's still a really, really good bulky mon. You've got the gluttony sets, you've got the poison touch, you've got a lot of different ways that you can make this work. And if it's a special attack, this thing will just kind of live. It just kind of lives, and the typing's fantastic.
It's a great AV mon, like,
Oh, yeah.
honestly, and just like clicking, you get like Drain Punch, Knockoff, Shadow Sneak, and plus like Poison Jab or Gunk Shot, and
That's all you need.
that's kind of all you really need.
Yeah.
So, like, I like Muck a lot. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I think it's great. Certainly a lot better than the normal Muck, although I think that mon gets glazed a lot more than what it deserves. But yeah, certainly a really, really good mon there. And again, in Trick Room, you want to face a bandit Alolan Muck? I don't.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then Obama Snow. What do you think of the Obama Snow pick on this team, having
This
Snow?
was so far out of left field for me. I was so shocked. I can see kind of maybe like some Weather Ball, Terra Ice things that you can do with like Thunderous perhaps, but yeah, unless he picks up like a Bear Tick or like some support after this for Snow, I felt like this was a bit of a weird one for me to wrap my head around.
This one was interesting, yeah. And Balti had kind of been talking to me about his plan a little bit in DMs, and this was something that we were kind of on the fence of whether or not to go this direction. And so we're just gonna have to see how far this develops going forward and see just how much advantage he can take of this. So that is the end of round 7. What do we think here? Who's the winner of round 7?
I think Cyclozar, obviously.
I think so, yeah.
Is very appealing. It's a really solid spinner, really fast, and it's got a lot of good versatility. I think Ursaluna going this late is also pretty crazy.
Yep.
Some pretty decent fairy types, like you picking up the Ninetales and, the Sylveon as well. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff here, and a lot of stuff that I might have expected to go a round or two earlier.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Dragalge is really nice at this round too. Just again, the adaptability, being able to hit super hard and the slow pivot. I think that really, really helps out as well. So round 8, we are almost there, and we got Hisuian Quillfish.
I know Baldy's used this in the past, and he's got some fondness for it. So I like it. It's like it's not an overquill, but you get access to EVLAtes, you get spikes, T-spikes. You get some Destiny Bond shenanigans. You could just like deal damage with, like priority Aqua Jet. You get your gunk shots and stuff. So, for a budget pick, I think Quillfish is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think at this point too, I'm looking at like Obama Snow, and I'm like, why is Obama Snow not like a Polytoad? Just to give, because this has Swift Swim, and then you could also like Hurricane with your Dragonite. So if you're gonna have like that pseudo weather kind of thing, so I think that could be an interesting way. But we'll see. Maybe the later picks will reveal everything, and we'll just be behind. So we finally get some really good speed on here with Terra Dodrio.
This is cool. I like Dodrio a lot. It's like it's fast, and like it's got some decent. It's like 110 base attack or something crazy.
It's
like
110,
that,
115, something like that, or 110. Yeah, 110 speed, I think, and then 115 attack or something like that.
Yeah, it's like you just click Terra Normal, Double Edge, Terra Flying Brave Bird. You get like Jump Kick. I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Like, so you can do a lot of fun stuff with Dodrio.
I've already passed Keeb my signature Dodrio set. There's some fun to be had with that, and if you don't have the right stuff for it, it will just do insane amounts of damage. Yeah, this thing is cool, and as a Terra captain, I like it a lot. I think if you don't have it as a Terra captain, I think it struggles a bit, but with Terra, I think it works well.
Yeah,
the biggest thing is going to be, do I bring this or Arcanine? I think that's kind of the thing on that one. Now we have Registeel, another steel type.
Yeah, like adding even more bulk in here. I like Registeel. It's obviously like a pretty passive mon, but you get access to rocks, you could thunderwave things, you could body press things, and like this is always going to take a hit. Like it's never gonna die in one shot. So you get some interesting longevity out of it.
Yeah.
You could do some setup sets with like some resto chesto things and that sort of thing too. So, does it fit super well on the team with like Dialga and some of the other things in here? I'm not sure, but for a later round pick, I think Registeel, like you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah, I think for me the only thing is that I think the team right now anyway is looking a bit predictable when it comes to prep. So basically I'm going to always expect those top 4.
Yeah.
And then we can reasonably and then we look at the team and be like, okay, what are those other 2? But I can pretty much always predict those top 4 are coming and then look beyond that,
Yeah.
So I think in that way that's a bit of an issue with drafting so top heavy like this. Obviously it's a lot of power, but it's also a little bit predictable in the builder here, and I think that's maybe an issue that we'll run into on this. Just that you're always bringing Dialga, you're always bringing Valiant, you're always bringing Lando, you're always bringing Manaphy, but then what do you bring beyond that, and how much of an impact is that going to have on the game?
Yeah.
And I think that's really the important thing. So we'll just see what we round that out with in the last couple of rounds. We finally get the Uber for Ruppy, and it is Zamazenta crowned.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about the regular Zamazenta early on, and this kind of just like it does the same thing. It doesn't get to hold like whatever item it wants, but obviously the boost in the base stats and the move pool and stuff, it kind of just works, and on this team especially, I feel like it does really, really well. It's a really good speed tier for him as well. So I'm really excited to see how it does.
I think the speed is great, and the other thing that it is nice is basically a built-in leftovers with grassy terrain.
Yeah.
Since it doesn't get to hold the item it wants to, and that helps with its bulk since it doesn't really get reliable recovery. So I think that is super helpful on this thing, and I've talked about this a little bit with Grum and a couple other people about how this thing's kind of been on fraud watch recently, but I think that when you support around it really, really well, I think it can really, really put in work. And one interesting fact on this is that you see that there are 2 fighting types in Hawlucha and the Zamazenta. They actually don't share a weakness.
Oh, that's cool.
They are both fighting types, but they do not share a single weakness, which is really interesting, and one of the few times where I would say doubling up on a type is totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's cool, and I think it works on this team for sure. Moltres, again, I very much approve of this pick. I've had Tera Moltres before. That thing was nasty, and even without Tera, you got boots on it, and it just kind of goes nuts.
Yeah, I like Moltres a lot. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. Is like it's just a really good physically defensive, like reliable Pokemon, and you get access to Flame Body too, which can burn things, and that helps out the rest of your team too. So I like Moltres here. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's great, and again, you bring this in on the physical attackers, and then that's just going to make way for Zamazenta in the late game. What are you supposed to do? Like what are you gonna do? There's nothing you can do. You're just done. You're done. Talonflame on this one. How do we feel about Talonflame being the fire type?
I would have liked to see something with a little more punch. I know we've said this a lot for Golden Guy's team, but it's like, he's just got so much utility already. I'm not sure he needed the Talonflame.
The defog and Tailwind and stuff.
Yeah, it does enable like a lot of things, and obviously Gale Wings, like if you want to take the risk and not run boots with your other spinners, and you want to go like choice banded Gale Wings with a Brave Bird for like a one-time like nuke button, then I think that's really good. But Talonflame, it's a little more versatile. It can defog on ghost types and stuff that your spinners can't do. So it's an interesting pick for sure.
Yeah, I think just the only thing about this team is just the lack of immediate power. And we've said it a lot, but I just think that we're still missing that. We have plenty of utility, but I think we're going to end up forcing some utility mons into offensive positions, and they may not be able to do them as well as what they want to, or you may end up with some awkward team compositions. But I don't know. We'll just have to see. I think Golden has some potential here, and we'll see what the last couple of rounds end up with. Now this one's cool. This is a really good Tera roster, I think. I mean, just the 3 captains here. I think everyone can agree that these are really good standout options as your mid to low tier Tera.
Yeah, and Avalug being, this one being able to Tera and stuff, like it's going to be a reliable threat on the defensive side of things, the physically defensive side of things. It's like you get access to recover, you can find a way to just make this a reliable switch in to those physical mons, and you already have some really good special bulk and stuff, and like natural bulk in general with the Lugia, the Gouging Fire, the Pecharunt and stuff. So I like this. I think that is really fun.
Yeah, to me the only thing is, like, we already have Pecharunt, which has the 160 defense, right? And so I'm wondering if this was the play or not, and if it was, I'm wondering if we needed something like Trick Room in order for it to be able to have a chance to do something like the Mountain Gale strat or something like that. But I don't know, it's still an Avalug, and as soon as you get rid of its horrible typing, this thing definitely gets a lot better. And so I think there's definitely some potential here for sure. Mesprit, what do you think about the 3rd Levitator?
I mean, the treads really, and like even the Pheasantipity, like don't nearly need to worry about ground types as much as they have to, and like I like Mesprit a lot. I think Mesprit's very versatile. You get knockoff pressure, you get rocks, you get T-Wave, you can make it a fully specially offensive set with mystical power, like also gets U-turn, which never hurts. So Mesprit kind of just fits into that role as like, if I'm building my team, it's like the 5th or 6th mon I put on the team, but it fills whatever I'm missing. So I think that it's good in that respect.
Yeah, I am a Mesprit believer for sure. I definitely think Uxie is a little bit better, and maybe this was just a budget thing, but I definitely like Uxie a little bit better just because of its natural bulk being a little bit higher. But I don't mind Mesprit just being kind of the middle ground on those. But yeah, giving a pivot, giving the new mystical power move, I think all of that gives some really nice options. I think you're going to end up bringing this a decent amount just to help cover for Iron Hands and for Fez and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think it's bad by any means. Just it's going to be rough if you run into something that's Mold Breaker. That's the only thing, is Mold Breaker is going to be really tough into this team.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Bisharp, we got a rock resistance.
Let's go. I like Bisharp. It's like King Gambit was kind of like on my list for a while too. I've never used it, but but like Bisharp, having access to Eviolite and stuff, and like it's weak to ground, weak to fighting, but not much else. And your fire type weakness is covered pretty well with like Flash Fire Arcanine and the Dondozo and stuff. So I think that Bisharp can be a deceptive threat. It's like you get access to Sucker Punch and some other really good physical moves. You get Swords Dance, also gets like some decent utility. I think it's a rock setter, gets Thunder Wave. So I like Bisharp. I think that it's fun.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad on this squad. Obviously, it losing knockoff is pretty horrible. That was obviously its premier bread and butter move, but still, I mean, this gives us a rock resistance, which is good. It is weak to fighting, but you've got a couple options in Glow King, and I mean, I don't know if that I would call Skyman a switch into anything. But yeah, I mean, I still think it's decent. The Swords Dance Sucker Punch is still a threat, and now I can hold it Violite, so it's a lot fatter than it used to be able to be. So I think that there is some potential with this. Again, like our speed tiers, I feel like are super polarizing though, looking at this team, right? Because you've got Bundle, you've got Skyman, and you've got Cyclizar that are all pretty fast, and then everything else is slow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Arcanine is what, like 90, something like that, and then everything else is like really, really slow. So that's the only thing about that. And so there may have to be like a Trick Room mode or something at some point in order to make that work. But I think that those hugely polarizing speed tiers may end up being a bit difficult to deal with, but we'll see what happens in the last couple of picks. Tera Sandslash, what do we think about this, and does this ever come over Dirge?
from a terror perspective, I feel like it doesn't, but from like a spinner sort of utilmon, I think that it makes an okay argument, it's like obviously you get your rapid spins, you get your knockoff and stuff. I think as a budget spinner, it's pretty good. You already have defog on the wheezing, which is nice. But like I said, yeah, as far as Tera is concerned, maybe once or twice during the season do we see Tera Sandslash. Maybe you go like an SD set with something fun. But most of the time I feel like Dirge is probably your better option.
Yeah, I feel like Dirge is always going to be better. I do like having a secondary spinner, but you've also got a very reliable defogger in wheezing. So it's kind of tough in that way. But I mean, then again, I always am one that says, hey, you need at least 2 options for removal, and then I never listen to my own rule. So
Yeah.
I can't really complain too much about that pickup there. And this team is just disgusting. Yeah, Diancie, I think it's a great pickup here. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Diancie does a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, obviously, you're not super excited about your 4 times weakness to steal, but you have a Tinglu, so like, what do you care?
So who cares? Yeah.
So no, I think Diancie lends itself to some pretty interesting strategies. It's a pretty good lead with like rocks and stuff. You could set Trick Room, you could do some Meteor Beam stuff with this. Your fairy typing makes you immune to dragon, which is really, really good. You can just spam, your fairy type moves into things. So I think that Diancie's got a cool role on this team. I think that it works pretty well.
Yeah, because I mean, what happens? What do you do on the week that everybody expects the Unburdened Sneasler and the crazy fast Deoxys and all that, and then we bust out Trick Room, Banded Tinglu? What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, no
like what do you even do into that? You just cry. I think the correct response is to cry. But yeah, I think it works really well here and gives some really nice utility, and some decent offenses. You pray, yeah, that's exactly what you do, because that is very scary. Tinglu is very scary in that way as well. So really cool. All right, we mentioned Haxorus earlier. What's the thinking here besides the massive like 145 attack or something?
I mean, that's kind of it, to be honest. I went a little more simple with this pick. Physical offense is really, really strong on my team already. But adding in a little bit extra priority with things like first impression. And Hax is always just a threat. You click Dragon Dance, or like you have your Swords Dance, Scale Shot sets, those sort of things too. And it's a really good Scarfmon too. Like that's something that I really valued with it, with my base 150 attack almost. I don't really need to run like Life Orb or Choice Band or anything. I can if I want to, but as a Scarfmon, close combat, earthquakes, the coverage is just, it's there, and I feel like it's really good. So
yeah, it gets pretty much everything it needs. I think the only thing is just where it's a little frail, but I mean, if you get set up with Dragon Dances or anything like that, or you just come in and banded first impression, I mean, it's still gonna hurt. I mean, regardless of what you go into. So yeah, I think Haxorus is cool. I like it a lot, and I think it can definitely do some work here. And this is a mon that I've not seen drafted
in a while,
in a hot minute. But it's Tera Brute Bonnet.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think on this team, I think it actually can find some pretty solid use, especially with Tera being able to change, that grass and dark type.
Horrible typing. Yeah.
But it's like, obviously it's not a fair comparison to compare this to Zarude in any other way other than the typing.
No.
But the reason that Zarude benefits from Tera so much is changing and getting rid of that typing, getting rid of your 4 times weakness to Amon just clicking U-turn on you. So
yeah,
you could also like spore things. You got good priority. I think the Brute Bonnet could surprise some people.
The biggest issue I have with Brute Bonnet is the fact that you cannot get booster speed. I think
it's like actually impossible.
It's literally impossible. If you go max speed with Jolly, your attack will always be 1 more than your speed, and they designed it that way on purpose so that you couldn't have booster speed with what's it called, Spore. And so it's really tough in that way that you can't get booster speed. It's not possible. So to me, that really holds this thing back a lot, because it's really not that fast. Obviously its attack is pretty good in order for it to be that. It's like 117 or something like that. It's not bad. Might even be higher than that. But yeah, having Spore is definitely great, and being able to get rid of that typing is even better, I would say, on this, just because this is going to have to eat a fast U-turn a lot more than something like Zarude would. And so being able to go with Tera Fire or even just Tera Dark to boost your sucker punches, I think can definitely help. So yeah, if you're going to draft this, it needs to be Tera. So I think having it that way is not bad. All right, speaking of grass types, I went with Whimsy, double fairy, but I think it's nice having the Tailwind option here, so that I can feel more free to run things like Bandit or Specs or something like that. It also gives me the Prankster type of stuff with Stun Spore and all that, but this thing can also be offensive. It's also fast. It gives me a pivot. I think it just works well for what I needed on the team personally, but we'll see. I've not drafted Whimsicott since Gen 6, I think. It's been a long time, and even then that was like before draft was really a thing, and it wasn't really a draft thing. It was a whole other thing. But yeah, I think it's a cool mon, and I think it can work well here.
Yeah, Prankster is never a bad thing to have on the team, and a fairy type as well. It doesn't hurt, especially with the grass typing too. Gives you a little bit of a ground resist too. Yeah.
I think it works well on this team. We'll see how much I bring it, but definitely not going to be an every week kind of thing. But hopefully it'll provide the needed support that I need for that. Toad Scroll next up.
Toad Scroll. I don't know if I'm just a hater, but I just think Toad Scroll sucks.
I have a love-hate relationship with this thing.
But like at the same time, it's like, if you can maneuver around the ice type weakness, which this team definitely can do, and like you get a Spore Setter, obviously the Mycelium might kind of sucks a little bit for, having to go second and stuff. But it's also just a rapid spinner, which like your team benefits from. And like if you can put something to sleep, if you can just get some chip damage here and there with knockoff and like earth power and some other moves, I feel like it could actually play an okay role here. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in the same boat. I think having Tera is certainly much better for it. I got swept by a Tera Steel one last season, and so I believe Darude did that to me. And so it definitely has its potential. Obviously Mycelium it's one of those that sounds a lot better on paper than what it actually is in practice, because it's like, oh yeah, great, I can spore a Golden Go that normally wouldn't be able to, but then you're like, oh wait a minute, that only affects like 2 mons. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's kind of tough. So, but it gets good speed, it gets spin, it gets decent coverage. I mean, knockoff is great, Spore is great. Gets hazards. I mean, there's stuff there, but yeah, the ability certainly holds it back a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So then we've got Tera Ursaring. I like Tera Ursaring even in this format. I think that it can work.
It's surprisingly difficult to prep for. It's like I said, I play Zan in week 1 here. I've done a little bit of testing and stuff so far, and like what switches into Tera Normal Guts Boosted Facade?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. Unless you're a ghost type, like that.
And then it just knocks off.
Chunking. It is doing damage. So yep. I think as like, in tandem with Armor Rouge, like Zan's got probably 2 of my favorite Tera captains across all the rosters. So
it's a really it's a really nasty 1-2 punch to try to prep for. And then even then you're like, okay, I can prep for those Tera captains. Oh, wait a minute, there's still a Magirna. There's still a Magirna, there's still a Quaquaball, there's still all this other stuff. So just offensively speaking, this team is insane.
Threats.
Absolutely insane. There's not a lot of bulk here, but if you're dead before anything can happen, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. That it doesn't even matter. So that is the end of round 8. What do we think? Who's the big winner of round 8?
I mean, man,
obviously Zamazenta Crowned is right there, but
that's what I was gonna say. Obviously, picking up your Uber in round 8 is pretty rare, but I think that is really good on Ruppy's team. I'm a big fan of the the Dodrio. I don't know what it is. It seems like a really fun pick for me. And then Zan's Terra Ursaring. I feel like that's just nasty.
I think those are all really good options. All right, going into the second to last required pick, and I'll just tell you, the vast majority of people just did 10, so rounds 11 and 12 are going to go very fast. So Sableye, listen, I love Sableye. And I know that I'm in the minority for saying so. But listen, when you focus punch with Sableye one time and it works out, you start to believe in it. Okay. But this gives a lot of good prankster support. Now that it gets screens in this generation, it has everything it needs. It's good. It's and its typing is great. It's only weak to fairy. It's not bulky really, like, at all. But does it really need to be? Because you're always going to have a screen up pretty much. So I think it's a great pickup, and it just makes this team even more nasty. Just set screens and sweep with something. Pick your sweeper.
And that's about one of your 7 sweepers.
Yeah, so just nutty. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't have much else to add.
That's all right. All right, now Tera Quagsire. This was not on my bingo card.
No, not on mine either. But it's cool. It's fun. Like, this team's already like super fat, and now you add in an unaware mon that can be whatever type it wants to, and you get some recover, you get your hazard stacks with this thing. Like, Quag's fun. I like it.
I think Quag gets a bad rap. But again, like, I mean, your team is really not weak to grass. So it's like, if somebody's running grass coverage, it's solely for this. And if you want to try to hit with a grass move, Volcarona just comes in and starts doing Volcarona things.
Right.
So I think that's cool, but being able to Terra and have something a little bit more bulky, that way you can just be pure water if you wanted to, or be pure fairy, or completely flip the matchup with something like Steel maybe. I think that there's some potential there. It is a bit passive, but I mean, if you're scalding everything into oblivion, and then you just start setting up with like Deoxys or the Scizor afterwards, I mean, it works. You know what I mean? So I think there is some potential there, but again, takes a little bit of finessing there on top of everything. Then Tera Hitmonchan.
That's a fun pick.
It's a fun pick. I will admit, I do think this mon is on Fraud Watch, but I think that with Tera there is some potential. I think that you have to be very creative with this thing for it to work, though. But it does get all the elemental punches. The punching glove item, of course, helps it out a lot. It does get Trailblaze now as well to boost its speed, because it's pretty slow. Really, Rapid Spin's going to be our main way of boosting speed, though, just to give me another way of removing hazards on top of Glamora. But yeah, Priority, of course, is there as well. There's some decent amount of things. I don't think this is going to be an every week kind of thing. And am I going to ever say that this is going to be better as a Terra Captain than Low Kicks? I don't know about that, but it's still a cool pick, though.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Ambipom. What do we think about Ambipom on the Sun team?
I think it's fun. I have a bit of a soft spot for Ambipom. I think it's really cool. I think they did such a disservice to it this generation, taking
it's been treated so poorly. It's awful.
But I feel like it does pretty well. It's like this team is already full of some heavy hitters, and now you add in some fast knockoff support and like some really good pivot with U-turn and stuff. So I think that it can do pretty well.
Yeah, I'm obviously an Ambipom believer. Of course, week 1 of last season, being able to just absolutely destroy the Zoroark with a call on this thing last season was great. But so I think it's nice for the speed tier that it provides here, because I mean, what are our speed tiers looking like? You got Flutter Mane that's super fast, and then it's Ambipom. That's about the only other normally fast mon, right? So I think that it definitely helps out with that. Then you over here taking Indeedee Male, knowing full well that Grum was thinking about taking it.
It's kind of my thing to take things away from Grum. But no, so Indeedee seemed kind of fun on the team. Psychic Terrain, I thought, really supports like things like the Chen Pao and the Iron Moth with getting rid of like priority options. You know, and being, you know, a fast mon that can click Healing Wish and like Encore and some screens and stuff, or just deal damage with Expanding Force. I feel like it, you know, it does okay. I have a pretty minimal budget left at this point, like a lot of people did. So I thought that for what it was worth, it was a decent pick.
I gotcha. Yeah, that checks out. And then of course, right after that is the Indeedee female. I think we all saw that one coming. Just making sure that it doesn't get sniped by somebody else. Setting up the terrain. We've already talked about that quite a bit there. So yeah, of course this is going to enable the entire team. It's nasty, really good stuff. A little bulkier than Indeedee male, but for the most part they're somewhat similar that way. Altaria, round 9 Altaria.
Yeah.
I like this mon. It's not broken or anything, but it does get some sneaky things like Will-O-Wisp, which is weird. You wouldn't expect it to get Will-O-Wisp, but yeah, it's an interesting mon.
Yeah, I like Altaria a lot too. I think that there's some fun things that it can do. It's like deceptively bulky. I've seen people even do like Fire Spin Perish Trap stuff with it too. So I'm excited to see what Emerald does with it and how creative he is.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. Definitely not an every week mon, but definitely has some potential there. Now, speaking of potential, okay, listen, I like this. I like the Tera Golurk. We had this in Spring Fling, and this thing went off.
I think, God, I don't remember who it was. Somebody did like Terra Steel Golurk with Gyro Ball, and it went like absolutely nasty.
Oh, it got 5 kills on Ruppy. It was gross.
Yeah, it's crazy. I like Golurk a lot. I think Nogurt is really cool. You could do some like Terra Fighting Dynamic Punch kind of things with it, with like a Choice Band on it. And you could also use it as a rock setter. You know, it's a spin blocker. So I think Golurk's cool.
Yeah, no, I really don't hate the Tera Golurk pick. I think with Tera, it needs Tera. I do think, but I think with Tera, it definitely has the potential to do some work there. Mousehold. With no Tera, I don't know how I feel about this. It's obviously a nice secondary removal option with Tidy Up, but I don't know how much you're going to want to bring this over something like Treads, since you don't have the Tera.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of forced to run things like, you know, like protective pads to get around people running Rocky Helmet for it all the time.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? With that being said, you know, it still gets some okay support moves. It's decently fast. So there's another mon where it's like not every week kind of a thing that you bring, but it could have some pretty cool use.
Yeah, bring it when there's no ghost type. I mean, I guess so, but I mean, yeah, I mean, you're gonna run one set, right? Tidy Up, Pop Bomb, Bite, insert 4th move. So it's just kind of it's a little predictable in that way, but I mean, Rocky Helmet's not bad into this team because there's also a hands. So I don't know. We'll see how much that comes. I feel like it's going to end up riding the bench a lot, just because I think it gets overshadowed by Treads. But still, we'll see what happens there. Now this mon I like. I think this mon will definitely come a decent amount. I like Mudstill.
Yeah, stamina is really, really good.
It is.
You know, it takes one hit, and all of a sudden now it can't get killed. So
I mean, look at this team, right? You've got Pecharunt plus Avalugg for physical, plus this now for physical defense, and you've also got Lugia plus Sylveon for special defense. I hate it.
Very tough.
I hate it. It's so bulky. It's gonna be very hard to break this team. Very hard to break this team. Metachamp. All right, listen. I face Golden week 1. This thing is a problem for me. It's scarfed with what it needs to is gross. It also gets Trailblaze, I think. It's not bad. I would have liked to have seen it Tera, obviously, but I believe all the Tera points are gone with Lapras. Yeah, this thing's not bad. Pure Power is definitely something that needs to be respected, and it can do some work.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I like Metachem a lot. It's a cool mon.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's got some potential. So definitely very cool there. All right, I don't think I can talk about this one because I'm a bit biased.
You might be a little bit biased,
just a little bit.
Yeah, I like Appleton here. You know, Thick Fat like helps out the Torn, it helps out the Iron Crown, it like, and you know, access to recovery, you get Apple Acid, those kind of things. I feel like Appleton's cool. I've not seen Appleton do particularly amazing in the past in the leagues that I've seen it in, but you know what? It might have a role on the team here where it does fairly okay, and it can be a reliable switch in on some things.
Listen, I ran it one week when I had it a few seasons ago, where I ran Curse, Earthquake, Sucker Punch on this thing,
Sure.
and it got 3 kills. Okay,
That's crazy.
This thing's cool. I like it a lot. There's a reason it's my mascot. I considered bringing it. I considered getting it this season, but just didn't have room for it. But yeah, I like this pick. I think it's really cool. I mean, we all knew this was probably going to go at some point. Round 9 is not when I would have expected it to go. I would have expected 10 or 11, but still, it's Trap Inch. You come in, your first impression, you trap stuff. What do you want? It's fun.
Yeah, like that's all there is to say about it. I respect the pick a lot. I think it's funny.
Yeah, it's fun. How much is it going to come? Not that much, but I mean, if you are Kyle, of course, he brought it like 4 or 5 of the weeks. Like he brought it a ton, and it did get several KOs. So I mean, there's potential there. There's certainly potential. I don't understand this one, but I don't know that I've ever seen someone draft Vespiquen. I really don't know that I've ever seen it happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I've ever seen it either. It is a Terra captain, so like you do get access to some fun stuff there, I guess. But
it is, but yeah, outside of like setting T spikes and that kind of thing, well, I'm really not sure what this thing's gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll really be, and again, we're on this team. It's like we've got Terra Manaphy.
Yeah.
Am I going to pick this over Terra Manaphy? I don't know. You know what I mean? Obviously, its typing is one of the worst in the game, and so it needs the Terra. But I just don't know if I'm gonna ever bring this and Terra it over, Terra it over the Manaphy.
Yeah, for sure.
So. Noivern, again, we needed speed, so I think this works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. You know, it gives you an option over the top. Noivern's going to outspeed a lot of stuff naturally. So, you know, nothing's really stopping you from just slapping a choice specs on it and just clicking one of your, you know, Draco Meteors, Hurricanes, U-turns, whatever.
Yep.
But you could also run Boots. It's a good defogger. You know, Boom Burst is also a really, really big threatening move. Get some Throat Spray sets in there too. So I think it complements the team pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it works here for sure. Yeah, definitely really cool. And you'll notice that there's still no Uber.
Mm-hmm.
Still no Uber up to this point. And TJP, yes, I saw your DM, and it's all good. Yeah, the team is very balanced. I think it works. I think the team works even without an Uber. I think it's just super strong, and I think that it really shows you what you can build even without an Uber up to this point. And I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. Number 9 for Baldy is Terra Articuno. So there is why the snow is here.
Yeah, for sure.
Terra Ice Blizzards, possibly.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Articuno. I've used Terra Articuno before. I used it in Spring Fling, and it did really well. You know,
it's
Terra
cool,
Water
yeah.
and Terra Ground are both like very, very solid options for it. Takes hits really well. You get Roost. You know, you could do a lot of fun stuff with it. So I'm excited to see how it performs on this team for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. And what's interesting is you look at the 2 Terra captains, right? And you've got both sides of the Bolt Beam.
Mm-hmm.
And so while it is easy to say, well, you just prep for Bolt Beam, that's a lot easier said than done.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, and this thing gets freeze dry too, which is really, really powerful, because you can't just switch in a water type to take these moves. Very, very strong. I think that I think that's a really, really solid pick for number 9. So that is round 9. We are going into the final required round. What do you think is the best value, I guess, here since we're here toward the end?
Honestly, I think like Terra Golurk seems pretty cool for me.
I gotta agree.
You know,
yeah,
just having the versatility there, and you know, being a rock setter and also just dealing stupid damage, I feel is just, it's really good. So I'd say the Golurk's my favorite.
Yep, I gotta agree with that. I think Ambipom is a really good pickup there as well at this point. And then of course I got the soft spot for Appleton as well. So really cool. Baldy's saying, hold on to your hats here for this final pick. You all ready for this? Smeargle. All right. Listen, I am at the point where I don't know if Smeargle should be allowed to be at 2 points anymore.
Yeah.
This Mon is fun. Now, it has some of the worst defenses in the game. However, it gets every single move in the game. And so there are a lot of really cool things you can do with it. Obviously, there's the Shell Smash Pop Bomb that you can do with all that stuff. And I've been talking to Baldy about some other potential sets there, but you've also got Ceaseless Edge, Stone Axe. You've got all these other things that can set hazards, Spore. You name it, it can do it. And I think that it's going to be an interesting pick. Definitely some great value. Is it going to sweep every week with Pop Bomb? Probably not, but there's certainly some potential.
Yeah, for sure.
So then for some reason this says Noivern. I don't know why, but this is Ampharos, Tera Ampharos.
Mm-hmm. I like Tera Ampharos. I think it's cool. You know, it's like it's deceptively bulky for like a lower tier Tera captain. I feel like it's okay. You know, you get access to static, which can definitely help out some of your slower mons that appreciate, you know, getting that increase from things being slower. I could also see like some sort of like Cotton Guard Ampharos being pretty cool with Open Terra. So, and you get some more slow pivot with Volt Switch and stuff too, which I think is also good.
Yeah, I think this is a cool pick. I think this is a really cool pick here at the end. Yeah, we've got some fast stuff, so and I think it really helps balance out the Terra captains as well. So I think all of this works out really, really well for this squad. So I think that's great. This is definitely a Terra captain of all time. Calyrex is weird. Now I think that I am more of a believer in Calyrex than a lot of people are. However, the only set that really works is like Calm Mind, Leech Seed.
Right.
So, and again, am I bringing this over Manaphy?
Right. Maybe once or twice you are. I don't know. I've never seen Calyrex drafted. Like these last two picks, I feel like I've hardly ever seen them taken. So it's cool to see them make a team, and maybe they have like a game or two where they can do something pretty well. But I guess that just remains to be seen.
Yeah, we'll see. A Calyrex is bad. It's not a good mon. But I mean, you know, maybe you can go Terra Steel and sit there and Calm Mind and start setting up and go nuts with that. I don't know. But to me, I would rather just go with the Calm Mind or what the specific move on Manaphy, Take Heart. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Terra Colossal, great pick. I think that makes a lot of sense here on this team. I think it makes a ton of sense here, actually. Giving you the flame body support, giving you another spinner, which is really good. So, well, giving you a spinner, that's your only spinner. But yeah, and this thing definitely does not like its typing, and so being Terra is great.
Yeah, no, it's like surprisingly very difficult to get rid of when you have Terra. Like Terra Water Colossal just kind of like sits on things. You know, you spin, you set up your Stealth Rock, set up your spikes and stuff, and it ends up being like a really, really solid pick. So yeah. But I do have to get going here. But I appreciate you for having me, and I appreciate you guys for hanging out. I hope you guys are like really, really excited for the season. It's going to be really, really fun.
Everybody say bye to Ark.
Yeah,
make sure
I'll
to
see
sub.
You guys later. Thanks for having me again, Dapper.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys. I will catch you soon. See you.
All right, very good. We will finish this out. We don't have much left, so we will go ahead and get through all of this. Next up, Terra Luxray. I am hyped for this. This is one you never see this drafted really, but I do think that it's really cool. Abandoner, yeah, definitely. Definitely go comment on all of Ark's videos. Comment on his draft analysis when it comes out later today, and just tell him how he abandoned it. It's great. And and make sure to like his video as well. Make sure to like that to show how you feel. But yeah, Luxray is cool. I'm really cool. I'm really happy to see this showing up. Yeah, it's slow, and yeah, it's a little bit frail, but I mean, you got Guts or you got Intimidate. You have the ability to go Terra Normal with Facade. You've of course got the Trailblaze to make this thing even faster, and one of its biggest issues is just its speed. So I think that there is a lot of really good potential here, and this definitely needs to be respected on that physical side, because if you just completely prep for the Iron Crown and the Tornadus and stuff, you're going to get rocked by something like this or the Ursaluna later on. So I think that it definitely has some potential there. Then we finally get the Uber and the ultimate breaker for Golden, Spectrier. This is an absolute threat. There's a reason that this is now in the Ubers tier, because it is ridiculously strong. And this and Quaquaval are two of the biggest snowballers in the game. Spectre is ridiculous, and so this is something that absolutely has to be respected. It now can be behind screens because of the clef key. There's just a lot going on here that I think is going to work really well. I think it's fantastic. Definitely a really good pick, and it's really awesome that he was able to wait until the last round to grab his Uber and still get something that is that's going to be a very valuable pickup for that team. Then we get Copperaja. Now this was originally an Archaludon, and Arts had enough points to make this an Archaludon, although he would not have been able to afford any Terra Captains, and so Copperaja came into this as a much lower point value Steel type. I do think Copperaja gets a bad rap just because of its speed and its deceptively low bulk. However, it does get a lot of really good coverage, and I think that helps it out a lot. You know, it gets play rough, it gets multiple steel moves, it gets ground moves, it gets electric moves, it gets all kinds of stuff, and so I think that really helps it out a lot. Obviously, it's super slow, but besides that, I don't think it's that bad of a pick, and so we'll see just how much. Yeah, Sheer Force as well. Yeah, it definitely gets that as well, so that's really cool. So this can be very bulky. Again, this team is going to be super bulky and hard to take down, so Arts has definitely made this a difficult team to deal with. Next is Quilladin. I definitely am seeing that these last few picks are a little bit rough. Quilladin was a 1-pointer that just was put on here as a grass type. I don't know how much this is going to actually show up or not, but without Terra, I'm really not sure if we'll see this thing at all, honestly. But it's interesting. It's an Violet user. Obviously, it can be somewhat bulky on the physical side. But yeah, I don't see this coming very much at all. I think it's just one of the better value mons in the 1-point tier. So yeah, it is what it is there. But yeah, I think we're gonna see it ride the bench most of the time. And then finally, Terra Frostmoth here. This is yet another insane Terra Captain. So you know, we've been kind of clowning on TJP for a lot of this draft, and then the last two picks are two incredible Terra Captains. So Frostmoth is one of the best Terra Captains that's out there, honestly, at least in the low tiers. And so I think that this is an incredible pickup, and having the points for this is really nice. So obviously it's Quiver Dancer, and the worst thing about it is its typing and being 4 times weak to rock. So that can definitely work out there. So I think this is a huge threat that needs to be respected, and I think that probably like 8 times out of 10 you're going to see this, something between this and Golurk being the optimal play. So I definitely think we'll see some really cool stuff out of that. Then Zangoose, non-Terra, but still, I mean, I think we all know about Toxic Boost and how much damage this thing can do. We saw what Gentleman Thomas did with it last season with us. This thing is insane. This thing's absolutely insane. It gets decent speed, it hits super hard, it gets quick attack, it gets facade, and it just kind of goes to town. There's not really a whole lot to discuss about it, because this thing will absolutely sweep through your team if you are not prepared for it. So definitely bring your ghost type just in case. Terra Electabuzz at the 10th pick for Grum. I think this is an underrated pick for sure. I think that it's nice because you can of course get Bolt Beam coverage, but even more so, you can be a lot more bulky with this thing. And I mean, Pure Electric is not bad typing, honestly, but it certainly can be improved in certain situations with things like water or fairy, maybe even steel. But I think that there is definitely some potential with this mon. It gets decent coverage, it gets decent utility moves as well. So I definitely approve of this pick here. And then yeah, Buzz, good enough speed. Yeah, it is faster than what you would think, which is cool. And then Miss Magius for Arc here. I think this is great. Normally I see this as a Tera captain, and of course we had Hunky Donkey not too long ago have both Hariyama and Miss Magius as Tera options and on the same team, and that team was gross. So yeah, this thing is definitely really good. It's a nice trick mon. It's not very bulky on the physical side, but on the special side, it's really nice on the bulk. So I definitely think that we will see this really good as a potential Scarfer, really good as a Specs user. It can do a lot of really cool things, and I like that a lot. Eggy, of course, I would have liked to have seen this Tera, but still, we saw what Executor did last season when Viz had it, of course, taking it all the way to the championship, and I think that it absolutely deserved that spot. There was some really nasty sets that Viz came up with for this thing, and definitely surprised me, and I think that there is a lot of value in this pick for sure. So definitely a really cool one on that. And my final pick is actually Tera Whiscash. I didn't have a ground type up to this point, and so I wanted one, and this was Bundle Montreal did not no. Bundle Montreal got the best team. No, you got some really nice last Tera captains, which is that's definitely true. But I don't know about total teams. But yeah, I got Whiscash. It's a nice spiker. It can be Dragon Dance and setup. It's somewhat bulky, and definitely can have its typing improved with Tera. So I don't know how much I'm going to be bringing this thing, but I definitely think that it could work as a Tera option here. Oh, that's backwards. Then Tera Squawkabilly. I approve of this. I very much approve of this pick here. I think it's very cool to have something like this. One thing that's nice about this is that you have access to a lot of different sets, because the different types of Squawkabillies have different abilities, and so you can really mix things up, which is really cool. Tera, of course, opens that up, so you can go with a banded double edge. You can go. You can have Intimidate and go for something, maybe try to be a little bit bulkier on there. This thing's not very bulky, but that's cool. You also have the ability to go with Final Gambit on this, which I think is fun. And so you go Scarf Final Gambit on this, and then you go with Copycat Scarf on Blissey. I think that's always fun, and you just take the battle to a 4v4 right off rip, which I think is interesting. So yeah, definitely a really cool option there. I definitely like that Tera captain. Muck, we talked about this a while ago. I think Muck is underrated for what it is. I definitely think that it is better than what people give it credit for. Obviously, Alolan Muck is quite a bit better just because of the typing, and it gets some extra coverage. But still, regular Muck is not bad, especially as an AV user. It can set toxic spikes. It of course can poison people with Poison Touch. I think that this thing is really cool. So I think it works well here. Again, we've had a really big focus on offense up to this point for Zand, and then now we are rounding things out with some bulk here at the end. And so that is round 10. That is the final round of required picks. So rounds 11 and 12 are going to be a lot shorter. So definitely going to go pretty quickly through this ending here. But as far as winners of this last round, the top few for me are going to be Frostmoth, Luxray, and the Colossal. I think that those are definitely the top three. Obviously, Spectrier is a thing. Spectrier is definitely very strong. But I mean, at the same time, Spectrier is something that you wouldn't expect to go in round 10. So yeah, I think that that's very good. When we're looking at like Tera captains and the low tier stuff that you would expect to see here, I think Frostmoth, Luxray, and Colossal are definitely the top picks in the low tier stuff. But yeah, Spectrier is Spectrier. That thing is gross. I technically would have loved to have banned it personally, because I don't like facing it. But that's just me. So yeah, definitely really cool stuff. So you'll start to see some skipping here. You may not see every coach here in this 11th and 12th round. But Zand did pick up Tera Dupiter here. This is a very interesting pick. I have never seen Dupiter drafted. I've seen things like Cutie Fly and that kind of thing drafted for webs, but I haven't seen Dupiter, and so I'm interested to see what this can do besides setting webs and going down. Definitely really cool to have webs, especially on a team that is so offensive. This team is absolutely insane. You'll see sometime this season. Great. I'm waiting to see just what kind of work you can put in with Dupiter. Definitely a cool pick. Regular Rotom now for +1 here. I definitely like it. It's another ghost type, which is cool. We didn't have an electric type before, so that's not bad to grab that. It's also off the ground, so we have a ground immunity, which is cool, along with Squawkabilly. It's another pivot mon as well, which is cool. I like that, but we get a secondary possible spin blocker, which I don't think is a bad thing in this case. So yeah, I definitely don't mind the Rotom pick there. We're going to skip over to Tony Torkoal here with the Zebstrika. Again, this is normally a one that you would see having Tera on it, but not in this case. But that's still fine. This thing's very fast. It gets pivot. It can be both physical or special. It gets fire type coverage with overheat, so that can be boosted in the sun, which is really interesting. But yeah, I definitely think this can be a cool mon, and definitely we'll see this probably a couple times throughout the season. Tatsugiri is one that we don't see a whole lot of. I think this one gets overlooked a lot just because I don't think it's as good as what people a lot of times give it credit for. But definitely is nice as a spin option, a secondary spinner to the Bramblegast, of course. Definitely not bad there. Gives a dragon, which he did not have before, and can nasty plot. Also gives you a water immunity, which helps out with the Ting Lu, which is good. So that's cool. I mean, technically it's a secondary one because Volcanion does it as well. So, but still not too bad there. Going to Arts now, we grab Morgrem, and I know that Arts was surprised that Morgrem was still around, and so he grabbed that. I think Morgrem is vastly underrated for its ability to parting shot around and set up screens and do all those things. I definitely think that this is a cool pick. And his team is just so bulky. I don't know how you break this team. It's going to be absolutely ridiculously hard to try to break through Arts' team. So definitely a really cool pick there. Definitely can enable things like the Lugia or the Gouging Fire in the late game. So I definitely like that. And then finally, Crep takes the Seviper with Tera as well. Now, how often are we going to see this? Probably not all that much, but still, I think this is a really cool pick. And I like Seviper. It gets some pretty decent coverage, actually, deceivingly so. It gets like Flamethrower and random stuff like that for steals that would like to switch in on it. So there are some options there. Now, obviously, I would probably pick Crown over this almost every week. But yeah, and even then, I probably would grab Luxray over this. But still, I don't think that this is a bad pick by any means. And I think that Crep can definitely make that work. Slacking as another pick here for Ruppy. I have been a Slacking believer for a while, just because to me Slacking forces prep. It forces you to possibly bring Protect on things, otherwise you take a bunch of damage, and that can be rough, right? And so what's great about that though is that it forces the opponent to bring Protect, which means that you're not bringing a setup or a coverage move or something like that. So I think that that's really nice. And so even if you don't bring it, it does have to be respected in the builder. And to me, that provides some value there. So that's really cool. We get regular Avalugg, to very few people's surprise, on TJP's team. Again, that we skipped to this isn't TJP. I'm over here trying to glaze TJP because I see him in the chat. No, Jakib is taking regular Avalugg. I think this is nice, again, giving a secondary way of dealing with hazards. This gives spin in case they do get up, or you don't, you're not able to get Hatterene in time. So I think that there are some decent options there. Definitely Tera would have been nice on this thing because the pure ice typing isn't the best for something that's bulkier like this. But either way, I think that's cool. And then that is all for round 11. Like I said, not a whole lot of people took things in round 11, but yeah, non-Terra Avalugg. That's the only thing. I think that having Terra would have been great, but you know, it is what it is. And so then for your 12th picks, there aren't that many of them. So helps if I go forward. We jump back to Jumpluff with Grum here, non-Terra. I don't know how much this is going to come. I'm sure that Grum has a specific plan for just this mon, for just like one week, and then he goes and doesn't use it anymore. But I think it's interesting. It is faster than you would think, and definitely can be annoying with like strength sap and that kind of thing. But I definitely would have preferred to see Terra on it as well, just because its typing is pretty bad. Then we have Glalie, another ice type on the Sun team, which is a bit interesting to me. Of course, Moody is banned in this league, so you can't be doing Moody sets on this. But definitely an interesting thing. Gives freeze dry, which could be nice into some water types that want to try to take the fire moves. So we'll just have to see what he does with that. And then we've got Houndoom in the 12th spot for +1. I don't mind this pick, honestly. I think it's cool. It is a secondary fire type, so you know, maybe we could have picked something else up there. But I think it's cool. I do think that the Houndoom is not a bad pick there. Definitely is nice with like nasty plot sets, and can definitely function well there as well. And our final pick of the draft is Electric. Definitely an interesting pick here. But I mean, Electros is nice. I like Electros. Electric is similar. Of course, I don't believe it gets all the moves that Electros gets, but it gets a lot of them. And it can be somewhat bulky, and it of course is a nice Violet user as well on there. So really cool. Really doesn't need Terra, honestly, because it already doesn't have any weaknesses. So I don't mind that at all there. So that is all for round 12, and that is your entire draft. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you all enjoyed this very long stream. We're coming up on 4 hours, which is about what I expected it to be. But yeah, really insane stuff from all of the coaches here. Of course, each of their draft analysis videos are going to be going up a little bit later today, so make sure to check all of those out. Down in the description below, you have links to not only all of those coaches' channels, but also the Unpl Discord server. So make sure to join that if you've not already, and you can grab the roles of your specific favorite coaches in order to be notified whenever they upload. So really cool stuff. I think that I think we're gonna have a great season. We've got an amazing roster of coaches. The coaches have built some amazing teams, and I am very much looking forward to it. 1 week from today, week 1 battles will be going up on everybody's channels, and I hope you all are looking forward to that. So stay safe out there, stay healthy. We will see you all later on. Bye-bye.